All right, we're live. We're back. Sorry about that. Sometimes when you set up stuff in a different room or you move things around, I've actually changed my computer in here. So I'm using my laptop. I wouldn't normally use this. I think there's something a little bit sketchy going on here with the stream. But anyway, I'll stay around for about 20 or 30 minutes or so and make sure that I answer the rest of the questions. I want to also thank, was it Riff, who gave the super chat on the last stream. Thank you, mate. I appreciate it. Sorry I didn't get to say thanks before it crashed. But yeah, it looked like the internet just couldn't connect to the YouTube server. At least that was the error that I was getting. This first time for everything. So yeah, it is what it is. It's sucks. But anyway, thank you. All right, if I missed your question, feel free to let us know. I'll just give it a minute here to fire back up. Let's have some caffeine. Sponsored by Monster. They pay me 200 grand a live stream just to promote their drink. Man, I do it just for free of Monsters. No, I'm only kidding. All right, welcome. Cool. Yeah, this was a bit of a tricky one to get working again. I had to, the software I use, not that this interests anybody, but the software I use to stream to the web is slightly different on the new version, so yeah. Hey, Amanda, welcome. Steve, welcome back. We got, is it Thomas? Welcome. All right, cool. Jamal, how you doing, man? Oh, it went live and then it crashed. And now we're live again, so fingers crossed this is going to work for a bit. All right. Thanks for joining in. I don't know if I'll leave this one public after. I think the 40-minute one's probably going to be a bit better than a shorter secondary live stream. But anyway, we'll hang around for a bit here, make sure that it's all working. Yeah, this live streaming stuff, I've got a pretty simplified setup, and sometimes stuff just goes wrong. It's really weird. Basement Pedal says, what's my thoughts on Tweed amps? Mixed. You know, some of them I really like the sound of, and others I'm not a huge fan of. It really just depends on what it is. Some people love the old school Tweed amp thing where there's no reverb circuit, single speaker that just have lots and lots of mids. And I kind of get that. In the mix, they sound great. I'm more partial to something not quite as old school as that. I mean, I've got a Fender Blues Deluxe reissue, which is a Tweed amp. It's loaded with a different speaker now, but I don't consider that necessarily a straight up old school Tweed sounding amplifier. Some might argue that it has those qualities, but I think of stuff like the, you know, Eric Clapton Tremolux or the Twinolux. Those are the two sort of Tweed amps that I've heard a lot of over the years. And those have a, you know, as dry as they sound unreal. And those in the mix sound fantastic. And then there's others that can sound a little bit too ice picky on the high end too. It really depends on the amp, the player, the tone. I have nothing against any amp as long as they're good. You know, a while back I thought, oh, I'd never like a 5150. I heard one, I was like, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, it all depends on what it is. Do I have any plans to review the Keeley Halo pedal? You know, I haven't actually looked into that one. I've heard of it, but as of right now, I don't know if I could probably get my hands on one. I do have a contact at Keeley, but yeah, as of right now, no, there wasn't any plans to do it. I don't mind their stuff, actually. Some of their stuff is great, so I'd be open to it, but yeah, I don't really sort of like spend a lot of time emailing companies, so I'll have to make an effort for that one, and I'll see what I can do. Yeah. All right. Have I tried Amplitude 5? They're releasing an amp profiling capture extension complete with Kemper Quad Cortex. No, I haven't tried that. That sounds good too. If you're into that sort of stuff, this is the thing. I think a few companies have done this, right? Where they started like as a software company and then they released amps. I feel like there was one I saw at the Melbourne Guitar Show like 3 years ago. That was that exact thing. Was it Bias Effects maybe? They had like a Bias suite. and then they went into amps. So that could be cool. If I've got that misunderstood, just let us know. I need to also make this bigger. Why does the chat always reduce in size? Anyway, it should be all right. Dave said, hey Shane, I missed part 1 because I'm also watching Pete Thorne's live stream. Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know he was live. I don't even check. I was like, I've got this room set up kind of nice. Let's hit record and hit stream and see what happens. Have you tried any CMAT mod pedals? I have, but not for 7 years. You'll have to, if you go right back, that's not even right back to the start. It might be longer than that, actually. It might be more like 10 years ago. If you go back to the early days of the channel or just type in that keyword in my search tool, you'll see it. From memory, they're pretty great. I just don't remember what it was I tested because I borrowed those off my friend Brian. I'm pretty sure, was it Rick? One of the guys had it anyway, so that's how I got my hands on them. And they were pretty cool. I never owned them though. And I don't know enough about them currently to really comment any more than that because it's been a long time since I've even heard the name. So, but from what I remember, solid quality pedals. When recording your demos, do you record multiple mics to blend down or go into a single mic? So it really depends on what I'm doing. So on the intro tracks, well, let's just take the Jerry's thing for example, what I did over there. So the intros were all done using the Strymon Iridium because I had a reference monitor that I needed to hear, right? So anytime you're listening, you're playing music or you're recording, you need to hear a mix of what's coming back. So we needed a pedal or recording device for that particular situation. And that's got that speaker IR cab thing built into it, and it's great. It sounded unreal. So I left it on the Fender preset, bit of reverb, ran my pedals into it, and that's that sound for the intro. For when I do amp demos though, and I've actually got the amp mic'd up, I'll pick 2 microphones, and there's some really classic combinations you can't go too far wrong with. It's funny, like I've noticed so many people using my exact combination from years ago. Shure SM57, classic, nothing new there, and a Sennheiser E906. It's a classic microphone, works great, sounds very different to the SM57. The trick is you got to kind of get them equal distance from the cone. That will give you the best representation of, or the best recording, I should say. And it will also make the post work that you need to do much easier. I don't do much post work. So what you're hearing on my videos is the blend between both microphones, even, left and right. So when I record them, say a 2-channel audio interface, I'll set them up so when I look at the waveform or the audio input on my recording software, they're peaking at exactly the same spot. A lot of people will go, okay, so that's it, done. And if you're recording into a stereo track, it gets a bit nerdy, but if you're recording into a stereo track, you want to sort of downmix the output back to mono or separate the tracks. Or if you're recording on separate tracks, then you're okay. You can get a blend between them both, bring one up, bring one down if you need to, but that's all I do. I usually I record on a stereo track, and when I get into my software, I pull it back to separated mono tracks, which stops them from being hard panned left and right, basically. And then I've got I got a blend between them both. That's what I go for. You know, some people will swear by other techniques. The blend technique is by far the best. So a bit of a long-winded answer, but you can't really go too far wrong with getting a good blend between 2 great microphones, whether that's a condenser microphone, a ribbon mic, 2 dynamic microphones. Just having 2 separate voicings is much better than one on its own. As long as you don't have the second mic too far back, because all of a sudden you're going to get all these weird phasing issues. The trick to recording great electric guitar is having the same distance away from the cone with both, or making sure the distance of each microphone is placed at exactly the same or close to the same distance away from the cone. And then you're laughing. So that makes a huge difference. Hey, thanks for the super chat, mate. Thomas, I appreciate it, mate. It cost me plenty of money after watching your review, so I might as well give you some of it too. Hey, thank you, mate. I appreciate it. Far out. That's. I tell you what, what I do on YouTube on this channel happens to me with other products that I'm always looking for as well. It really does. I'm a huge camera nerd. No questions about it. I love tech. It's just one of my things. And I get right into it, and I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. And yeah, I can blame plenty of other channels for exactly the same thing. Thank you, mate. I appreciate it. I don't know if Riff Magoo is back, but I just want to thank him again for the super chat on the last live stream if he's joined us again. And welcome back, everybody. Sorry again for the downtime if you've just joined me here. Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for the support, mate. I appreciate it. All right, so I'm just going to go back up here, take some questions. The super chat just like pops right up here. And any thoughts on the Fender American Player Telecaster? Did you play one of those with the, how do you say that? Is it Yosemite? Is that how you say that? Pickups? They sound sick. So I've played the American Player Teles before. They're really good. I've actually done, I'm pretty sure, reviews on the channel and a live play test with them as well. So you can probably find that on the, not at a gig, just like a live shop session we did. They're great. I don't remember if they had those pickups in there or not. They sound like they could be something slightly different. It's been a while, so I'm not like 100% positive which pickups are in the one that I played, which would be last year now. So yeah, I'm not too sure, but they're solid guitars. You can't really go too far wrong. You know, so little changes every year with Fender Standards and Fender Player Series, or Fender, what were the standards? They changed the name. So all that kind of stuff, very little changes. You could buy a guitar that's 10 years old and it'll be every bit as good as the one that's out now. You know, some people will disagree that pickups might have gotten better or the radius of the fretboard's changed, and that's true, but or the neck profile, I should say. But yeah, they're going to be good. So good stuff. All right, we've got Bacon Tracks backing tracks. Wow, that's a mouthful, mate. Have you tried the Gibson Melody Maker with P90s and Bigsby? I'm about to buy one. You know what? Thanks for the super chat as well. Appreciate it. No, but I saw one on a Guitar Search Saturdays we did at the Guitar Attic in Florida, a place where I've bought guitars over the years, and it's a super cool guitar. He had the single. I want to say. You know what? I can't remember if he had the one with the P90 or if it was a humbucker version, but it was a cool guitar. I think far less expensive too, right? From what I understand, compared to a lot of other models that were out at the time. So I don't know if there's a new one because I'm not up to date with the latest of what's coming out from Gibson. But if you go back to the old Gibson Melody Makers, they're pretty cool little guitars, a bit like a Les Paul Jr. kind of thing. But with a P90 and Bigsby, you've got me intrigued enough to go sort of check it out and see what they got available. So thank you. Hey, Hutch, thanks, man. Far out. Thanks, everybody. Hutch, you're a madman. Thanks for all the support over the years, mate. Yeah, geez. Guys, thank you. You don't have to do that. Let's scroll back up. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. I'm laughing at some of the comments here. Amanda's like a rock star in the chat. All right, well, I think I'm almost caught up. Did you do a review of the Epiphone ES335 Pro versus the Inspired by Gibson line? Excuse me. I have a Pro. I really enjoyed that guitar. I've never reviewed one myself because there's no ES335. Oh, actually, I don't know if they make them in lefties. I don't think they do. I know they don't do the 339s at all in lefties. The only one we get is the Dot Standard as a lefty. I could probably get my hands on them and ask someone else to help with the video. So that might be the way to go. But as of right now, I don't think I've played them. I think the Epiphone Casinos and ES335s are far better instruments than the Casinos are. Like, it's not even close. So if you're on the fence deciding between a Casino and a guitar you can actually take out and play live and make a good amount of noise with, get the 335. Much better instrument overall. Playability's better. Tone is better. There's just lots about it. It's just a much more usable guitar with great pickups. You don't have to go modding it. It just works. And I gigged with one of those things for probably 6-7 years. So they're really, really good. But it's all personal choice. If you're a jazz player or you might like a more mellow tone, just play rhythm guitar, the casinos are pretty good. The casinos used to be great, and this is the thing that kills me about them. I always wanted one. And then I played one and I went, ugh. The neck's great, not great. Sorry, the neck isn't great. The neck join is just not very nice either. You can't get up too far and play. And as a blues player, I don't love it. It's funny because some of the old Epiphone casinos, some of my favorite guitars of all time. I don't know what happened with the ones that I've tried, but really disappointing. Asking because your mic demos are really well done. Hey, thank you. Oh, well, that's just experience too. And that's not to sound like conceited. I've produced lots of recordings for people over the years, including myself. And doing what I do a lot also increases your skill. You try stuff. You go, oh, okay, so that works really well. And there's so many great microphones out there as well. But I think that the thing that really makes everything sound better when you record is starting it with a great sound. If the sound you've got out of your amplifier is good to begin with, it's making that whole process easier. Back in the day, I was never overly happy with my amp tone, especially when I was playing a Fender Twin for a while. I just couldn't get the sound I wanted. And the recordings reflected what I didn't like about my amp. I went over to a Fender DeVille at that time, and the clean tone was instantly nicer. And when I mic'd it up in exactly the same way, I got a much better sound. So, well, to my ear, right? Everyone likes different stuff. But that's what it comes down to. It comes down to start with a great tone first, mic placement second, and then you're pretty much good to go. Yeah, that's my opinions on it. All right, let me just scroll back down here. And thanks again, everybody, for all the support here with the Super Chats. Far out. Hutch says, I don't know what happened, but I got kicked out and I couldn't get back on for a while. Yeah, the stream dropped. I don't know why. I had this... it says excellent connection now. Before it didn't. It was like this yellow warning sign, which is why I thought it was going to crash early in the stream. But, excuse me, but now it's it seems to be working all right. The old outlaw says, I find the irony with not so many gigs around now, yet we have an overload of great gear, pedals, guitars. Where were they 30 years ago when people wanted the selection, variety, and competitive prices? Well, that's it. You'll probably find like everyone who bought guitars in the last 2 years who wanted to pick it back up, that might not have played for a long time, you'll probably see a huge, it may already be like this. I haven't been looking as much for like used gear. Sometimes I'll look for amps. There's plenty of stuff online if you do look, but I think you're going to see a huge amount of stuff hit the used market. The problem with it is though, because the retail prices have gone up so much, you'll probably find that the used market will kind of, it'll also go up. It's like in Australia right now, buying a used car is more expensive than it's ever been because the demand's there for it. Not because it's worth more, but that's just how it is. I wonder whether or not like people will still be buying instruments, but also the selling part will go up as well. But more people will be starting to move to the used market, but paying more than they probably would have as of a few years ago. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of thing. Have you ever bought a guitar that you like, even though you don't need it because the price is really good? Yeah. Yeah, I've done that before. I did that with the Gibson Les Paul Special with the P90s. I got a good deal on that, and it wasn't as expensive as I thought it was going to be for a Gibson. And that was one that I didn't need, that I liked enough to go, okay, I'm going to get that. I've done that a few times, actually. There was one time I bought a Fender made in Mexico Strat, the white one that I had quite a number of years ago now, probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I was like, man, this is awesome. And I actually went there because my friend was going to buy an amp, and I ended up buying a guitar. So it happens to me too. You're just in the right place at the wrong time, and you see a guitar, you go, okay. I'm sure I've done that a lot. If I actually collated a list of all my guitars over the years, it would be pretty hilarious to work out what I bought, why I thought I needed it, whether I kept it, and all that kind of stuff. Because yeah, it's crazy. Hey Jamal, oh mate, you're on. All right, we've got to set a new rule, folks. If you're on my Patreon page, no super chats. Thank you, mate. Far out. You guys are awesome. Thank you. I know it's been ages since I've been doing live streams, all that kind of stuff. Preparing before I went away, coming back, getting sick, and here we are. So the channel is going to start moving forward. I'm also going to mix up the content again coming up. I know Jamal and a few of the other guys who are on Patreon know this already, but I have plans to do some different things on the channel. Again, bring back some stuff I let go because other people were doing it. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to start just doing what I want to do again. And it's going to be great. So yeah, thanks again for all the support, guys. Oh, Dennis says, hang on, guys. Sorry about that. Dennis says, just picked up a Victory Sheriff V4 amp pedal. What a beast. Need a bigger cab. Have you checked any of the V4 series out? No. They make good stuff. It's funny because I've had mixed experiences with their amps. The first few amps I heard had this like really ice pick frequency you couldn't get rid of. About 2 years later, I heard another one and it sounded unreal. So yeah, I reckon their stuff's pretty solid. It's not something that I've tried or had a chance to try because I don't know any shop in Melbourne that really even carries any of that stuff. But yeah, there's so much great stuff. Let us know if this interests you as well. I've done so many like pedal reviews over the years, right? Like, I don't know, there must be a few hundred. I'm not exactly sure of the number. But I thought I'm going to go through the range of the classics. So maybe like 10 or 20 EHX pedals, 10 or 20 Boss pedals, and there's already some obviously of the Boss pedals, and just start going through Ibanez, all the stuff that I think most people are interested in, because the boutique stuff's cool and that's the stuff that I really enjoy, but I think there's still a huge, I think a lot of the standards get kind of overlooked, and I thought I might revisit them at some point because I can get my hands on all that gear really easily. I can just borrow it from the shop and return it to them when I'm done. So yeah, I thought that might be kind of fun. Robert says, enjoyed your Collings review today. Hey, thanks, man. You're one of the 10 people that watched it. Sorry, I've owned a Collings CL Deluxe for 18 years and put a Dole, is it Collis? Man, I need to make this bigger. Pickups in. Blows away the Gibson LPs. Man, those guitars are some of the best playing instruments I've ever played. There's this thing I like to call fight on a guitar. If you play a great guitar, it's easy to play and you forget everything about it. Like you can just play it. That guitar, I tuned it up, did the video almost in one full take. It was unreal. Just to let you know too, all those videos we shot in like 4 or 5 days at the shop. So there's 20 odd review videos. Massive, massive undertaking. So if you're looking for something a little different to watch other than Epiphone or Squire or Yamaha Pacifica, go check out that playlist. It's, even if you're not interested in like higher end, more expensive guitars, there's some really great hidden gems out there. And the Collings stuff is some of the best. That LP, or CL I should say, not only looks good, it stays in tune. I like the cutaway, and all those modern appointments are something that I'm starting to appreciate far more than I used to. I never really used to like anything out of the norm. Now I'm almost going the other way. I much prefer something that's a bit more contoured, which may explain why I'm playing my Strat a little bit more. I don't know if it'll ever replace the Telecaster, but I love the whole modern Telecaster vibe too. There's so much to like about guitars that have more usable tones, or they're more comfortable to play, or they've got locking tuners, or things that might be upgrades over some of the really expensive guitars that haven't changed in 50 years. So yeah, that playlist is full of really cool stuff, and there's some really interesting ones coming up. So yeah, I've sort of saved them for the last 10. So thank you, and congrats, what a great guitar. Jamal says he's driving, that's why I'm not chatting. Hey, stay safe, man, all good. I bought a bit of used gear recently that people bought to try and learn guitar during the lockdown. Bargains galore. Oh, that's great. All right, I'm finally going to pop this chat out. My screen is way too far away here to see. Let's do this. Oh, there we go. Why didn't I do that at the start? Whew. All right, I'm going to go through a few of these. Have you ever thought about switching strings over from the top to bottom to make a right-handed guitar into a lefty? You know, my short answer is no, but my long answer is yes. I have thought about it a lot more lately. Not only just as it intrigues me a little bit to try it, and I know Jamal does that. He's got a Monterey Strat that he flipped upside down. I think that would look really cool. The only problem I have, and I've said this before, I've played a lot of right-handed guitars upside down, and my forearm forever is knocking the volume and tone controls. It might just be the position of my arm or the way that I play, but I'm sort of going to have to relocate how I play on an upside-down right-handed guitar. But I could get into it. Maybe. It's a maybe. Yeah, I think I almost thought about maybe borrowing right-handed guitars, restringing them lefty for a review video, stringing them back up and taking them back. But I don't know if that's how viable an option that is. But yeah. Jesse says, hi Shane, do you find that the neck relief changes on your maple neck Teles between winter and summer? You know what? Not really. They're bulletproof. Both of... Oh, actually, I did have a problem with one of them once. I needed to adjust the action slightly, but generally, it's only since being in this house. Generally, no, I haven't had a problem with it. My Gibson Flying V actually had a massive problem the other day. Not only did the frets corrode in just over a month from being in like a damp room in a case, which was surprising, the neck was completely bowed. So I shouldn't say completely. It was unplayable though. So out came the Allen key, gave it a slight adjustment after cleaning the frets and restringing it, and it plays and sounds great. It's actually on the next video coming up. I'm like, oh, it's back. So I got to say that although it gets cold here, it doesn't get as cold as other parts of the world where you could have like drastic climate change from summer to winter like you would in like Boston or Canada or wherever else, right? So, yeah, it's not as bad here. It doesn't snow, so, or at least not, I shouldn't say doesn't snow where I am because it has before, but it won't normally snow here. So I usually find my Telecasters are the most bulletproof out of all of my guitars. They've got big necks on them. Both my Teles have fat necks too. I don't know if that kind of contributes to it or not, but I don't have too much of a problem. Sorry about my sinus here. It's still a bit funky. Mr. D says, did you bring back any guitars from the States? Jerry's Lefty Guitars must have felt like heaven for you. You know, every time I go there, I can't bring back guitars. Because traveling with a guitar sucks. I've done it before, and it's unless I'm playing like a lot, it's a huge pain. Jerry's awesome. He said, if you want anything, let me know. We'll work out a price, and I'll ship it over for you, and I'll pay for the shipping, but he'll ship it to my house, basically. And there's one I really want, and I'm going to put it to a vote coming up. It's such a great guitar, but it's expensive. It's like, it's the whole thing. Can I justify buying a guitar that's that expensive with where I'm at now? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I can. It's more money than I'm used to spending on a guitar. It's great, and it's worth a lot. If I was to buy it here, it'd be more expensive. But I don't know if I'm going to make the most out of it. And that's how I feel about it. Could it replace a few guitars? Probably. But I didn't actually bring anything back music equipment wise other than I think a couple of cables or whatever. That was about it. But there's definitely a few. LSL Telecasters are fantastic as well. If you get a chance to try those, give them a go. There's a number of them that I wanted, and it just, you know, that trip, doing that won't, it just wouldn't pay for one of those guitars. And not that it needs to, but, you know, money can go out much easier than it comes back. So, hey, Junsuk, thank you. I appreciate the support. It's $5 from Canada. That's like, what's that? Probably like $5.50 here. So Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Thanks for your support. John says Monterey Strat should be upside down. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Yeah, I could get into giving that a shot. I think it would be an interesting sort of experiment, but I'd need to find. I'd really want something that I'd have no chance of ever finding in a lefty. So I guess that's a lot of options still, right? Excuse me one sec. All right, Christian says, hey, Buzz, thank you, man. New guitar. Buzz, you're awesome, mate. Thank you for the support. That's hilarious. New guitar fund. Oh, that's all right. Man, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Far out. I'll come back to that in a sec. Christian says, question on my 68 custom reverb with Les Paul. When I drive it, it gets too punchy and I struggle to find a good spot in the mix live with it. Tips. All right, so when you're playing a deluxe reverb, there's a couple of really classic settings. It all comes down to the bass control and at what volume you're at. So the louder you turn those amps up, the further down you need to turn the bass. A classic setting would be to have the bass at 3 o'clock. The bass on 3, so most of the way down, right? Which is what, like somewhere around 9 o'clock on the clock scale. So that will give you a cleaner sound, but punchy is good when you're playing in the mix, right? You want to be able to be heard or to hear yourself. So if you mean too bassy, then it's mostly to do with EQ. If you find that you can't dial it out, then you might have to look at either changing the speaker out or working the volume a little bit more on your guitar. Les Pauls and Fender amps work really well together. And if you're also using an overdrive pedal, then you might also need to look at, like, what is this doing to my sound that doesn't happen with it off, right? So yeah, there's a few things there, but it's a custom Princeton reverb. Sorry, all right. So Princeton's are really punchy amps. That's part of their whole vibe. They're a great sounding amplifier, those 68s. Again, I would say the thing to do is to run the bass down most of the way. As soon as you start turning up, it will clear up the sound big time. Having a punchy sound in the context of a band mix is great. Again, if you're just talking about, if your terminology is different, let me know. But yeah, it's all in the EQ with those amps. There's a few classic settings, but there's this really great piece of advice I got years ago. It's to start with all the EQ off. Start turning up the treble until you hear it kick in and stop. Do the same with the mids and bass. You don't necessarily need to be pushing everything forwards all of the time. Sometimes down is better, but have it at the same volume that you're experiencing problems at, and then do it, because that'll also change the sort of interaction with the volume. All right, hope that helps. Anyway, just experiment around. It's a great amp. So if it's just too overbearing on the low end, some neck pickups can just be problematic. It could be that too. John says, Shane over backwoods Strat already, Hendrix, if you want to try it. Oh, that might be cool, man. Thanks. Yeah, I wouldn't mind trying that out at some point just to see what it's like. From a Les Paul player, I'm getting into the Strat world, but the bridge pickup is not something I can really get use out of. Between a hot bridge, single coil versus humbucker pickup option, any opinion? All right, so if you're used to playing a humbucker bridge pickup, there's a huge difference going over to a Strat bridge pickup, but Strat bridge pickups are unreal when you dial them in right. They're unreal. They've got a certain presence in the mix that are great. But do they sound as beefy and as, as the Les Paul will? Absolutely not. But you can still make them work, and it comes down to, at least for me, when I play a Strat, I'm always using one particular dirt pedal, and it sounds unreal on bridge pickup. some combinations won't ever fatten out your tone on the bridge. You kind of need a pedal or something in the chain that makes that bridge position. You know, you want to keep the high end, but you don't want all of it sometimes. But you also want to fatten it out a whole lot more. That's where those sort of like Dumble pedals are really good for bridge pickup tones, or any typical mid-hump pedal that shaves out a bit of high end can also be great for bridge pickup Strat tones, especially live. So if you want that guitar to sound great, I don't get anything out of it, but check out the Buffalo Effects Carrera Overdrive. That is the Strat pedal of Strat pedals. It is so good. You know, I didn't use it for a while. I went back to it and I went, oh, it is unreal. So yeah, definitely give it a go. And I also think sometimes, like, you've got to start with a sound that sounds okay before you click the pedals on. So have a good play with your amp. I always set up my amp before I do anything else. The pedals can be adjusted if I need to, but you want to get the sound that sounds good from the amp first. You know, people sometimes just leave everything on amps at 12 o'clock and then make the pedals get the sound out of the amp. I'm a little bit different. I'd rather get the amp to sound great clean, or as good as I can get it to sound in the room, and then turn my pedals on, because that will work better. It means you don't have to fiddle with the pedal board much. It means the amp, it should just work. Oh man, sorry about my nose. One thing I've learned over the years too with Strats, lastly on this, some Strat bridge pickups are just nasty, especially if they're like Fat 50s. Fat 50s are some of my least favorite Strat pickups of all time. I purchased a set of them and they're terrible. Made in Mexico Strat pickups were like infinitely better. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Hey, thank you for the super chat, Junsuk. Hope I pronounced that correctly. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, so YCJ got a flying V for his 40th birthday. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Happy birthday, mate. Happy 40th. You're catching up on me. I've got a few years ahead of you. And yeah, flying V's are fantastic, mate. So awesome work. And thanks again for the super chat, Junsuk. I appreciate it. Suk, I should say that, I think. The nut slots must be hang on. Must be able to string a guitar in reverse easily. Oh, the nuts. Okay, yeah. Yeah, the nut is what I'll need to switch. If you switch a guitar upside down, that's exactly what you need to do. You need to do that. All right, I think I thanked everybody for the same. I think I thanked you for the same super chat as I did before there. Oh no, there's two. Oh, there's another one. Far out, John. Thank you. Love the show. I subscribed. I just bought a Fender American Professional 2 Telecaster. I can't wait to get it. Liked your review. Awesome. Congrats. Great guitars, man. You know, the amount of people I've recommended those two who are looking for a Tele or a Strat. Fantastic. What can I say? I reckon they're the best production model guitars Fender have made in like those big runs, right? There's other models that are just as good on like the side runs, but you can't go wrong. I mean, that's a guitar you can play and enjoy forever. So congrats, man. Let us know how you go. Is you already bought it? Oh, I can't wait to get it, you said. So, okay, let us know how it goes once you get it, because yeah, I love the feel of those. Straight off the shelf when we did those live playing clips with them, they played so beautifully. Like, the tones were great, the feel was there. It was just it felt like a guitar that had been played for a while, which I really like in a good way. Dave L says, for a Strat bridge, it's helpful to have the wiring where you can turn the tone knob down a bit too. Yeah, totally. So that's the other thing. I don't usually use tone controls too much, but sometimes in a pinch, the bridge pickup one will get used on a Strat, and you want it wired so the bottom tone control only affects the bridge pickup. That's definitely, yeah, 100%, mate. Dave L, you're onto it. I love the Telecaster bridge pickup, but I've never been a fan of the single coil Strat pickup in a bridge. Yeah, I'm the same. Most of the time, I much prefer a Telecaster bridge pickup. They have more beef and attitude. It's probably that steel base plate thing. But it really depends on what you're trying to do. Like if you want to get that sort of Jimmy Vaughan classic sort of off clean Strat bridge pickup tone, the Strat bridge pickup tone's the way to go, right? But yeah, as a usable bridge pickup, the Tele can do so much, and it is a more robust sound, and I prefer it as well. But when you dial the Strat in properly, which is harder to do in my opinion than other guitars, it sounds unreal. Have you ever toyed with the Strat? Oh man, sorry about this, the burping from the monster here. Have you ever toyed with Strat pickups and adding a backplate? Oh, there you go. So I've got one hybrid guitar that has a steel base plate Strat style bridge pickup. It sounds more like a Tele, and yes, it does make a difference. I haven't tried a steel base plate straight up Strat pickup though, so not in an actual Fender Strat. But the Kiesel guitar I've got are the Johnny Highland pickups, which are kind of like a hybrid between the Tele and the Strat thing, and that bridge pickup looks like a Strat pickup, but it has the base plate and it sounds awesome. So there's something to that for sure. Aaron Short, welcome mate, hope you're doing well. Just uploading a review of the Wampler Moxie. It's really good. I don't know that one, man. I've really sort of like been out of the loop with all the new pedals and stuff, but congrats, man. Very cool. Hey, June Sook, thank you. I appreciate the second super chat here. What's going on? Thank you, everybody. We'll definitely check out the Buffalo OD. Thank you for all your input, and thanks for the great video. Been watching them since the early days. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just sort of thankful that, you know, the channel's still going to some extent. It sort of has died off a bit over the last few months, but I haven't been, you know, I guess posting as much as I used to in various ways. It's sort of like 2 or 3 things instead of like 6 different things. So we're getting back there. It's coming back. But thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Hey, John, thank you, mate. Set everything on my Fender amp at 7 like Clapton. Well, that's interesting because, you know, which amp are we talking here? That can work to some extent, especially, well, probably works better for a Strat than it will for something like a Les Paul because, you know, if I put my bass on my amp at 7, it would be way too much for humbuckers. It would sound terrible on the neck pickup. He has a really... I gotta say, I don't love Clapton's newer sound. I like his sound going back a bit. Not like his... Everyone goes back to the Cream days. I'm talking about his 90s blues tone. That kicks ass, man. Everything about his tone then was the best. And then he went into like... I don't mind he's just straight into the Tweed Twin kind of thing. I think that actually sounds pretty good too. But yeah, if you can get away with making that work with a Strat or a Telecaster, do it. There's times where I think 1 o'clock on the dials is a pretty safe bet. So you might be onto something there, but yeah, it might be interesting to try that. Hutch says he wishes he could play like Clapton. Man, Clapton was my biggest influence for so long. I can still play so much of his stuff note for note. You know, when I was like, or maybe not so much like note for note like Dr. Rick does, but I can play it almost close enough that the feel's there. And his vibrato and his little slide bends and his phrasing and all that kind of stuff was the best. And it still is great. But his vocals also good, right? That's something that people don't sort of praise him enough for. When you reviewed the Marshall DSL 40CR, you said the master volumes... you said set the master volumes to 10 and leave them. I tried that on DSLR CR I was about to buy. There's a lot of static, even with the preamp volume at 0. Normal. Doesn't sound too normal. Usually if you're getting like a crackling or static noise, one of the preamp valves needs a bit of work, or maybe the bias on the amp's not set correctly. I love that amp. I've still got it. And always, I run the master volumes all the way up on that amp, and I then set the channel volume to 12 o'clock and work my volume control. And at that volume, you may hear some sort of static coming out of the amp. You got to remember, this is cascading valve amp. It's a cascading valve amplifier with gain. So you're going to get like any noise will be amplified until when you hear it. But it shouldn't be that noisy when you, say, turn your volume control down and just leave the guitar off, basically. You might hear a little bit of noise. Unless it's really bad, then I wouldn't worry about it. Because when you're playing live, you're not going to hear it. Or if it's not as loud as your voice, you know, or whatever the case, or if you can't hear it over talking, I wouldn't worry about it. But if it's severely crackling, it means one of the preamp valves is definitely gone. Easy to fix, right? And those amps are fantastic. I actually opened mine the other day because I blew it up. I was like, oh no. And I realized it had 3 safety fuses, which saved the day. So in the end, the amp works great. I rebiased it myself. I was like, this amp is built great. So yeah, I don't know if you're on the ultra gain channel, like the really heavy gain stage, then you'll definitely hear some preamp noise coming through. Without question, the crunch channel shouldn't be too bad. The clean channel should be dead quiet. If you can hear gain or crackle or whatever coming through on the clean, it means the preamp valve has definitely got problems. Sorry here. Let's just go back up. There we go. Aaron says, I ordered the HSS Miami Blue as well. Man, that is such a cool cool color guitar. I think we're all talking about the American Pro 2s, right? The Miami color is my favorite. I love it. And it's funny because that's the sort of color I wouldn't normally go for, but it looks great. Actually, it's funny because Dr. Rick was talking about how much he likes that as well. I was like, yeah, great. Simon says, I have my Strat neck and bridge wired to the middle tone knob. I have my Strat neck and bridge. Oh, okay. Wired to the middle tone knob. You can never select both pickups at the same time. Yeah. So some people, hang on, let me read that again. I have the Strat neck and bridge wired to the middle tone knob. Okay. Yeah, that's usually the first mod people get done. I remember buying a guitar from a local shop here. It was a Strat, and he had to play with it. The guy that was the tech guy, I said, oh, can you just look at it and make sure? He goes, yeah, I don't love that wiring. I said, oh, why is that? He goes, oh, the bridge tone control should be only, this back tone control should only be working on that. So he did some wizardry in like 5 minutes, and he goes, there you go. I was like, oh, thanks. I didn't even know. I was just like, do whatever you think's good. It's whatever you get used to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. So, yeah. I think that's what started me with that whole bridge pickup tone control thing, because in the early days, I ended up getting my 50th anniversary Stratocaster modded like that. And that's how it worked. Any views on the Gibson 490 RT pickups spotted in the Les Paul studio? They're awesome. Yeah, thank you, Jobber, for the question. I'm a huge fan of Gibson pickups. Whether or not you like the tone of their build quality or quality control, I should say, their pickups are some of the best. I love the 490s are good. I've tried all their most modern pickups, and I think they're great. The Burstbuckers, definitely my favorite from Gibson. If you're going to replace pickups in any other dual humbucker guitar, put the Burstbuckers in there. You don't even have to go find third-party brands that are more expensive. The Burstbuckers are the best. They got the top end. They don't have excessive low end. They're extremely well balanced. So you play a chord, you hear every note. They got them in the Slash guitar. I've got them in my Flying V. I've played them in Les Pauls. I've played them in all kinds of stuff, and they're unreal. So yeah, I have no problems with even any of them. Basically, the pickups that were in their modern series guitars sounded great as well. They're pretty cool. But yeah, Burstbuckers definitely would be my favorite. Sorry, there's a second part to this. Or I can get a brand new Epiphone LP with Gibson Burstbuckers for the same price. Oh man, yeah, I did a video about that. Whether you should buy an Epiphone or a Gibson. If you're aspiring to get a Gibson, just buy it. It's probably a better move long term. And if you don't love it, you can easily like sort of sell it and get most of your money back. It's definitely a smarter move. But the Epiphones are so good at the moment that it's hard to really discount them as well. If there's he said for the same price. Same price, if it was me, I'd probably buy the Gibson. But if I could get, it's hard because I love their sort of 50s and 60s Les Pauls from Epiphone. They're some of the best they've ever made. So anyway, let us know in the comments, folks, what you think about what would you do? Because the finish is going to be better on the Epiphone, right? You're talking about the entry-level Gibson. They're pretty bare bones, but they're so good. They're really good. Hey, we've got Landon here. Welcome, man. We've got GRB Aquatics says, artist guitars have a pre-order release of about 10 new guitar models for later this year. Some interesting guitar models. Yeah, for sure. I will be getting some lefties from them at some point this year. I don't think the range will be as big, obviously, as the righties, but they're pretty good artist guitars. They get a good selection of lefties available. And I know John from the chat here has all of them. He's the guitar king. He's probably got 20 guitars. All right, Mr. D says, Eric Clapton, I shot the Sheriff live at the Crossroads. The one where he has long hair is one of the best guitar tones I've ever heard. It's really clean. Yeah, it's a completely different sound for him. He went through this real fizzy mid-range thing, which I never loved. That's kind of what I was getting at before. Then he went back to that sort of like ultra clean tone with the noiseless pickups. Sounded pretty great. So yeah. Before that though, the other Hyde Park, I shot the Sheriff at Hyde Park from the 90s. Tone is so good. Yeah, you're right. That one where he's from the Crossroads Festival is actually great. Thrash Metal Studio says, I use the DSL 100H head. I know, I've seen that. It's a great sounding head. He goes, and I get noise in it also. I know the heads are known for noise like crackle or pop or hiss. Oh, there you go. There's a lot of gain going through them, right? I mean, the ultra gain. So the ultra gain channel, it's I always refer to that like one solo a night. If someone does Black Magic Woman or something, some Carlos Santana song, I'll usually go over to that channel. I call it the Santana channel or the Carlos channel. Just click it on, hit a note, and it holds a note for like 10 minutes. It's hilarious. So yeah, those are ultra gain channels. I don't get on a lot for my kind of music, but they're a whole lot of fun. And you get great tones out of yours, man. I'm glad you got one of those amps. That's super cool. Sorry about my voice, folks. Dougal says, G'day, Shane. Late to the live stream. Looks like you're delivering a presidential speech. Yeah, this is just a mat I put down here because it makes the voice sound a bit better, I think. It's sort of like less reflective or something. Yeah, I'm in a different room today. This is my other studio. Let me... we've got JD Analog. Welcome, mate. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. Thrash Metal Studio says, I like the Burstbuckers and the 490 500s. Yeah, I reckon the Burstbuckers are hard to beat. I really do. Anytime someone says, I'm going to start looking at these pickups because I want the Burstbucker sound, I'm like, get a set of Burstbuckers. Like, what are you doing? I'm like the biggest Gibson fan in the world. I used to love their stuff back in the day, but I got one of them. And that's enough for me. I think they make solid instruments, but their pickups is where it's at. There's much better built guitars than them now out there that are also very expensive, but their pickups... they're basically what everybody else is cloning. You can go, it's a PAF style pickup. Well, just go buy the PAF. Yeah, anyway, that's how I feel about that. Aunt Jennifer says, just got a 399 Dean made in India, 1980s Cadillac, and it's freaking awesome. Way better than a Gibson. Awesome stuff. Dean guitars I've seen around, but I don't know much about them. They're, I think, more, generally speaking, more for sort of like people who play metal or heavier music, and they've got that aesthetic as well, but they're super cool. I saw quite a number of them in some of the... Oh, man. Sorry. I saw quite a number of them while we were away, so yeah, they're cool. It's not a brand I see that often here, so it's great to find them, so well done. JD Analog says, I like the old school T-tops, lower output, so you can push the amp a little harder. Yeah, see, this is another thing a lot of people misunderstand about good pickup tone. Good pickups don't have to sound louder than other pickups. They can sound clearer and nicer. Look at a vintage humbucker versus a modern humbucker. And sorry, Thrash Metal Studios. I know you. This is a joke for metal players. A lot of metal players will go for high output pickups a lot of the time. Not always. People in the know might not, but the lower output humbuckers have way more clarity. They're voicey. You'll hear more of the stringy sort of sound. These are sort of terms that may or may not make any sense to anybody, but yeah. So you can't go too far wrong with pickups that don't have the increased output, and that's a huge misconception. Louder is always better to the ear. This is the problem with doing pickup comparisons. If you don't adjust the volume so they sound even, people will generally like the louder one better, only because it sounds bigger and fuller, but it doesn't necessarily sound better because they're not balanced. So yeah, there's another thing I've noticed a lot of. So spot on. All right, best Strat pickup set for classic rock. SSS. You mean like, what would I pick? Man. Oh, hang on. We've got a spammer here, have we? Thank you, Amanda. Cheers. Easy fixed. Studio's looking sharp. Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate that. Sorry, I'm just scrolling back up here. All right, so what was the question? Favorite? These kind of questions about like which pickups are best for certain styles of music, it really comes down to the playing style. If you play that kind of style of music, you'll make anything work, right? I don't know if there's a best pickup for one style over the other a lot of the time. So just stick to the standards. Yeah, there's no real reason to go spending like a fortune on pickups. It doesn't really make sometimes it makes a big difference, but other times it doesn't, right? It comes down to your playing style. Like a lot of people are like, oh, how do I get the John Mayer tone or the Stevie Ray Vaughan tone back in the day or this? You learn how to play that style, and that's 95% of the way that you'll get that sound. Hey RJ, welcome man, hope you're doing well. Aloha. He's a music producer from Hawaii, one of my favorite places in the world, you lucky thing. Thanks for dropping in, man. I appreciate it. Favorite blues gig? I got to see Albert Collins on the Goldie years ago. My favorite one would be Buddy Guy. Yeah, I saw it right after a really disappointing Eric Clapton show, and it was like, oh, there's two. There's Buddy Guy and there's Chris Kane. Both of those guys were fantastic, and they love putting on a show. They love playing guitar. Their band was awesome. It was more personalized of a show than some of those arena shows. Yeah, I would say those two guys. Chris Kane, Buddy Guy. Easy. I would have loved to have seen Albert Collins. Albert Collins, one of the most underrated blues guys ever. What a monster. Sorry if I missed your question, folks. If I did, just ask it again at In The Blues Me here. Sometimes the chat moves and... John says, the new Artist Lefty is only a white Strat with upgraded specs and a 335 in Sunburst with upgraded Burstbucker pickups. They may do a Lefty of the newer models at a later stage. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've got some Lefties coming in. I got an email about it a while back, or I sent them one and I said, oh, are you getting these in Lefties? And I'm pretty sure they said they were getting some in. I don't remember exactly what models they were though. Janice, welcome. I was just coming back to finish watching the replay. Yeah, my stream died like 40 minutes in, so I don't know exactly what went. Well, it said it couldn't connect to the YouTube server, which is strange, but that's just, yeah, I don't get it. All right, g'day from the Netherlands. Welcome. Let us know if you use the subtitles too. I do put subtitles for the Netherlands in. Not that obviously you can write English fine, but you know, I'm interested. Thrash Metal Studios. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Active pickups can sound great too. I think all pickups can sound great. It just, I think what I was getting at before was I think that sometimes lower output pickups, people assume they're not as good when they've got a whole lot of other quality about them that you don't get in those higher output pickups. Ari Guitar Pickups, welcome. He says, g'day from Adelaide, everybody. That's we're just talking about guitar pickups there. We've probably got a professional in the mix here who can maybe add some opinion to it. I swear I hear a bird or some animal. Yeah, there's crows in the background today. I usually get a lot of kookaburras here, those laughing birds. I'm surprised there hasn't been any. And there's also construction going on next door. And I'm using this as opposed to the shirt mic. So you're probably hearing a lot more going on outside than normal. And I'm on a different side of the house too. Wallabies don't really make any noise. The other day I was in the park actually and we saw a kangaroo that was, I'm short, but it was bigger than me. It was bigger than me sitting on its sort of like on its tail and hind legs, sitting up, and then it took off and it just glided up this hill. It was really cool. Omen says, Buddy rules. Yeah, he's super cool, man. I went to his club many years ago. I actually did a little story video about that. You can check it out. It's called Playing Blues in Chicago. Why was the Eric Clapton gig disappointing? It just wasn't good. The vibe was bad. The song choice, in my opinion, was pretty bad. The best part about it was the rhythm section and Derek Trucks. I was right at the front. I was right at the second row from the front in the just off to the left, actually, on that show. So second, it cost us a fortune. Everybody was yawning. They clearly looked bored. And you got Steve Jordan and Willie Weeks chopping it up on the rhythm section. They were great. It just wasn't a show. It was like all the songs I've always wanted to hear Eric Clapton play live. He basically played none of them. And that was maybe a greedy thing on my behalf. But if you were more into, you know, some of the stuff he was doing in the 70s, you probably get a kick out of it. But for me, it was like, oh man, I wanted to hear a bit more other stuff. Yeah, it was just the overall show just wasn't very good. A lot of people complained. It was just like, it just didn't look like he wanted to be there. It was messy. Some of the guitar playing was pretty shit. Yeah, it wasn't a good show. And then I went to see Buddy Guy, and I was still bummed about the show prior because it cost us $400 each. Yeah. And Buddy was like $80. And I'm second, front row, right on the right-hand side of the stage there. And it was instantly better. Just everything about it was a better show. So, also, where we saw Clapton, that venue kind of sucks. And I don't like stadium gigs inherently. I've been to a few others since. And I'm not a huge fan of those. I'm never doing that again. I'd much prefer just going to a smaller venue. But you know who one of the best shows was I ever saw? Without question, Chris Isaak. Guy's a friggin' monster. Great band, showman, killer vocalist, great songs. Just like it's like a Musos band, and everybody seems to love Chris Isaak too. Whether or not you're into his music or not, man, see his live stuff. There's a live studio version of that Wicked Game song, and it is unbelievable. It's on YouTube. It's so good. Like, just a really great band, you know, but different style of music. But yeah, Buddy was like, he's the real deal, man. Just great vibe and right into it. And, you know, I had his Buddy Guy's Legends t-shirt on. and which my brother got for me years ago before I actually went to that club. And he's looked at it. He's like, "How'd you get one of these?" So he gave me one of his picks. I was like, "Oh, far out! This is awesome." And then I think, what was it? Maybe 6 or 8 months later or whatever, I went over to his club, and it was great. I got to meet his guitar player and a few things. It was awesome. Thrash Metal Studio says, "I'm going to Government Mule tomorrow." That'll be awesome, man. Far out. Oh, kind of blah about it, but saw him last year for the first time, and it was one big jam session. Totally not my bag. Oh, yeah, I get that. Some of the songs are like, the thing about that sort of music, they say it's jammy, but there's so many parts. You got to be right into the whole jam band thing. You're right. It's probably like not everybody's thing. Maybe you might like the Warren Haynes thing more on his own than, you know, the Government Mule thing. I don't know. Some of that stuff just blows my mind. I don't know how these people remember, some of these musos remember all the bits. That guy's, the whole band, they're just like, it really blows me away. What year was the Clapton gig? I'm going to say like maybe 2007 or 8, somewhere around there. Derek Trucks was awesome. Like, he was great, but I didn't go there to see him play. You know, it was sort of like what little Clapton played just left me going, oh, like where was the Clapton show? I get it. Like, he might not have wanted to play that much, but you watch some of his other shows and he's, you know, he is the show. And that's kind of what I was hoping for. I was a little disappointed with it. I love Derek Trucks. I think he's like one of the best guitar players ever. But yeah, I waited a long time to see Clapton live, and I was like, oh man, I want to hear him play more. Even if he's not on, I just want to hear him play more. I want to see him get to that spot that inspired me to want to learn how to play guitar. And I just didn't feel like there was any of that night anyway. Janice says she does the Wicked Game song. Very cool. Yeah, that's not to belittle Clapton. He's still one of my favorite players of all time, and I love a lot of his stuff I've seen him do since then. Like the actually it was slightly before that, like the Robert Johnson session, and there's just plenty of good albums that he's had, but yeah. Anyway. Yeah, it was Vox Guitar Rock. It was a birthday thing, so well, sort of like a birthday thing. That's why we went. Yeah, he might be 86 now. Who's 86 now? Buddy Guy? Let's scroll down. Hey, Nick here says, Shane's been a while working a lot of extra shifts. That's where I'm at now to finish my home studio. Very cool. Any advice, Pro Tools or GarageBand, etc.? All right. So Pro Tools is good if you have hardware that requires you to use Pro Tools. Otherwise, keep your options open. If you're on a Mac, just get Logic. If you're just getting started and you want to record, use GarageBand. It's free, and it's what I use on my YouTube now because it's got all the drum tracks there. I can layer up some bass, chuck my guitar parts over it, and doing the drums is very easy. It's like the easiest thing in the world. Logic kind of takes that to the next level, but you can get great results out of GarageBand. I always thought it was for kids after using Nuendo and Cubase for 13 years or however long I used that. They were awesome programs, and Sony Vegas before that. But yeah, I really feel like GarageBand will get you started, and if you want to take it to the next level, Logic might be the way to go. If you're I guess if your GarageBand's one of your options, you're probably on a Mac. I mean, Cubase is great too. Reaper is also very good and free, but it doesn't have all the drag and drop drum functionality that other software has. So really depends on what you need. If you're just doing straight up recording, you might not need that functionality. But yeah. My suggestion is, I had a studio for a while upstairs in a warehouse, and my suggestion would be make sure your cabling is done right before you do anything else. And what I mean by that is just get all the cables out of the way, lay them out and down, and make sure that they're in a situation where they're managed properly. If you've got 12 cables coming out the back of a desk, cable tie them. or Velcro them or something. Just do anything to keep them somewhat balanced. And if you can, label them. These are little things that make life a lot easier. I'm a non-guitarist here. I'm a keyboard player. Do you like Jimmy Smith? Oh man, I know the name. Jimmy Smith. I need more info. Tedeschi Trucks Band? Yeah, I prefer the Derek Trucks Band stuff, but I still like some of her vocal approach. I actually like the lead singer. Oh, I've forgotten his name. But I like his vocal more than I kind of like hers. But she's great. I can listen to her for a good amount of time. But yeah, not as much as the other dude. I like that other dude's vocal. It's great. But yeah, great music. I mean, some of my favorite albums of Derek Trucks Band, like the Already Free album, has her singing on it. I love those songs. So yeah, killer stuff. Musically though, it's all good, and it depends on the mood. At 77, Clapton is probably almost done. Last of the live tour paychecks, maybe. Don't get me wrong. You know what? I don't think he needs any more paychecks. He must be doing it for some other reason. I know he's got kids and all that kind of stuff. Maybe he's just setting everybody up for 3 generations or something. I'm not too sure, but would have loved to have been alive in his early days and heard him back then. Yeah, I mean, same. But you can also appreciate it still now. Like, there's plenty of that the back catalog. Back catalog is always going to be there. But in my opinion, like the 90s stuff was great. Would I have loved to have seen that whole tour live back then at the age I'm at now or younger? Absolutely. But, you know, you just got to enjoy the music and enjoy, you know, I think people are always like, the old stuff's always better. There's a couple of artists that just keep on getting better. And there's so many great Clapton albums from even the 90s and on, the early 2000s, that are really good that people just don't even try them. They're just like, oh, the old stuff's better. And Mark Knopfler's like that. The Dire Straits stuff is like iconic and it'll be around forever. But his solo stuff is friggin' awesome. It's so good. Not all of it, because some of it is a little bit, you know, you might not like the Celtic influence, but then he's got some just great songs, man. And if you're into blues or roots or, you know, any of the sort of the Dire Straits sound stuff, it's all there, you know. There's so much good stuff. Hey, we've got Greg's Kitchen here. Welcome, man. It says, just bought a bass. Do you know what size amp will be to get for home or sound room that has some balls? Yeah, I do. Look into the Fender Rumble bass amplifiers. They've got a whole lot of different ones. The bigger the better, and they're light, which also gives them the advantage, and they sound good at like almost any volume as well. But the Rumble bass amplifiers from Fender, they're unreal. And anytime we're doing like a studio recording, we're using those because you can hear them in the room over drums if you ever need to get that loud. And they also have a direct output on the back, which means you can record them very easily without microphones. Yeah, I'm a big fan of those. If I was to buy a bass amp, I'd buy that one. So, and great channel, by the way, mate. I checked out your stuff. You're killing it. I've got an Aussie chef. That's super cool. Does Reaper have inbuilt drum tracks? No, I don't think it does. That whole thing's a different sort of system, I think. I'm not exactly sure if it's MIDI or if it, because it's real drum samples. I'm not sure exactly how GarageBand have used such great sounding drums that you can customize just by dropping a slider around. It's really quite easy to do. If you're getting started recording your own stuff, do it in GarageBand because you can play on time with an actual drum track, and then if you need to replace the drums, you can do that and you'll know you're on time, right? It's a lot easier than playing just to a click track. Tony says Reaper is robust though. It has an easy learning curve. There's a guy named Kenny Giola who has amazing tutorials for all kinds of music styles. Oh, that's great. Yeah, Reaper's one of the... It's been around for a long time. Like back before I switched to Mac, which has been a good amount of time now, close to, I don't know how many years it's been, maybe 4 years, 5 years. It was still in its infancy back, I think Reaper had already been around for a few years even back then, and I was like, this is pretty cool, but it's not quite what I'm looking for. And then of all things, after dismissing GarageBand for so long, that's what I went for YouTube work, right? If I'm doing paid work, which I don't do much of anymore, but if I do, that's where I'll choose something a little bit more, something different. But I'm in a weird position because I'd been using Nuendo for 10 or 15 years. And I've still got that computer with Nuendo down on the floor. It's a PC that I haven't turned on in forever. So I'm kind of lucky right now. I don't need to do any full audio production for anybody. The last one I did was about 3 years ago for a guy. And he actually made it onto the Australian Blues Roots chart, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I think if I'm going to switch now, I'm going to Logic, only because the Mac makes it easy for me not to have to buy any more stuff. Hey, we've got a new member here. Far out. Thank you, Riff. And by the way, mate, I don't know if you missed my my thank you before, right when the chat started. Actually, when the stream died, I should say. As soon as we got the chat working again, I thanked you for the super chat before. But thank you for joining up, mate. And thank you to Buzz as well. Fender Rumble and We'll Never Look Back. He's got one as well. So yeah, the Fender Rumble is definitely the way to go. There's a lot of there's less expensive, horrible bass amplifiers out there. Don't look for much else unless it's from a reputable company like Ashdown or something. Some of those amplifiers can be great for bass, but the whole Fender thing is good because they sound good, they're light, and they're loud enough. And I just like the look of them as well. I think they're pretty good. And thanks again, Riff. I appreciate it, mate. Thank you. Yeah, Apple's one of those things I avoided for a long time. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I used to be a Microsoft, not expert, but I was qualified in many areas. And I was so anti-Mac for a long time until I got into video editing. And it was killing me. It was just killing me working on a PC. It would crash nonstop. And back then, it was really hard to match hardware with software. So you'd be editing and it would crash and you would lose everything up until where you saved. Even if you were saving a lot of the time, it would crash while it was saving. Sometimes it was a nightmare. And I had a dedicated machine that I paid and built for just doing that. I had, at the time, good graphics card, solid state drives, everything. And it was a nightmare. I went over to a Mac and my productivity just went through the roof. It was night and day different. And back then, though, we didn't have the same options that you have now for video editing. So it might be more balanced now with DaVinci Resolve and all the other editing suites. But yeah, the Mac has just made life audio video wise so much easier. And I'm an idiot. Why didn't I try this sooner? It's my own ignorance. But now I'm pretty much just switched over to Mac. I can pick up what I'm doing on this computer, stream to the web. This M1 MacBook Air is tiny. It's like, I don't know if I can even show you it. No, it's like, I don't want to cut the stream, but it's the least expensive one. I can live stream on this far better than I can on my big old computer that's technically far better. This thing is awesome. So I use this for my on-the-road video editing. Riff says, each time I wear the In the Blues t-shirt, people ask me where the guitar store is. I send them to your channel instead. Hey, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. That's super cool. I got another one made for me recently from the same place. I just ordered one from Teesprings and had it sent out. I'm like, that logo has stood the test of time. And if you haven't worked it out, it was not you personally, Riff, but people in general. It was heavily inspired by the Buddy Guy logo. I just wanted something circular that had just a guitar on it with some neon lights. I was like, done. I almost got the logo rejuvenated recently. I had a guy approach me and said, I can make your logo look better. Do you want to have a look at it? And I had a look at it. I was like, damn, that looks good. But I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like it's. I don't know if it's a smart move changing it. I kind of was like, it was essentially the same, but it was rendered slightly different in a way that kind of made it look a little bit more modern. But I'm like, no, I'm just going to keep it the way that it is. So yeah. Landon says, I was the same anti-Apple. Now I don't use Windows at all. Yeah, same. Unless I really have to. I don't use Windows at all. My M1 Mac Mini and MacBook Air, I get so much done so quickly. Yeah, to put this into context for people who are interested in doing YouTube or may already do YouTube on a PC. I know with the AMD Ryzen CPUs and the latest NVIDIA CPUs, you can get a lot out of it, right? But it used to take me an hour. And I spoke to Andy Martin about this, who has a number of YouTube channels. It used to take us an hour to output a file on a Windows machine with an Intel i7. This is the first gen i7s. When I swapped over to Mac, it took me 60 seconds to output the same file to my hard drive, which means all the edits are done, and then I'm rendering it. I used to have to walk off, grab lunch, come back, and if there was a mistake, I'd have to go, I used to have to wait so much longer. Now it's so much better. Video editing's gotten to a point now where it's as easy as what audio editing was 10 years ago, which has always been pretty easy on the most part anyway. That's what I mean. Like it's if you get the right machine for the job, and that's what it comes down to. It's like buying the right guitar amp for the job. This is turning into a cool kind of tech recording chat here. It's hard to switch if you have a DAW that you're used to for years. This is from Tony. I totally agree, man. And, switching from switching video editing suites was the same. I was like, all right, I've just got to, I'm really resourceful. I'm not to toot my own horn, but if I'm like, all right, where's this? Where is this option in blah, blah, blah? All right, there it is. All right, done. Maybe I'll make a note of it. After about 14 days, you can, if you use it regularly, if you're only using it once a week, it might be different. But for me, I'm doing something on a computer every day almost, editing, whatever. After 2 weeks, I was like, I get it. I finally get it. My work, I've caught up to my workflow capacity with understanding the software. And that's when you start to enjoy it. Those first 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe a month for some people, is brutal switching. But once you make the switch, it's definitely, you get the advantage out of it once you understand the software. You've got to be patient with yourself because it's really easy to go, screw it, I'm going to go back to what I was on. Anyway, Tony says, sorry, I used Cakewalk and Sonar before I switched to Pro Tools, but I couldn't justify the cost for the upgrades. Hang on. So you're saying you had to pay for the upgrades for Cakewalk, or you have to pay for the upgrades to Pro Tools? I would have thought Pro Tools would be giving you free upgrades. That's the other thing I like about the Mac, right? Anytime Final Cut gets updated, doesn't always work better than the prior version initially, but they fix it, is once you get the license for it, that's it. You've got it, no matter what version you're on. So that's kind of cool. Man, that sucks if they charge you for every new release. That's brutal. You should make a video of your live setup multi-camera. Sounds great. Hey, thanks, Greg. I'm actually going to be doing that pretty soon, so hang in there. This is another video I want to do for a long time. So this room I usually use for my other YouTube channel, which is... have I seen you comment on my tech channel? I'm not too sure. But anyway, yeah, I'm definitely going to be putting together some videos that might help people getting started. Want a good setup without kind of any price point anyway. That'll be something that I'll be doing. This current setup is probably my favorite, and it's not the most elaborate. It may look, I don't know how it looks on camera, whether you think it looks elaborate or not, but it really isn't. One of the most elaborate things is this $40 rubber mat I got on the desk. Just makes it look a little bit cooler. But thank you, Greg. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be doing some setup videos coming up. Jose, welcome, man. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for your support. He says, Shane, which semi-hollow body would you pick for the price? Artist 58 or the Harley Benton HB35? Yes. I always look at it like this, man. I've said this before, so I'm going to say it again because it's true. Whatever is the easiest guitar for you to get is the right choice. If it's easier for you to get the artist guitars, do that. If it's easier or less expensive to get the Harley Benton, do that. They're both great. Playing them both, they're essentially the same. The HB 35 Plus is slightly nicer than the 35. I don't know if artist guitars match that exactly, but if out of those two, they're both awesome. You can play either fine. So I don't know if there's any disadvantages to one or the other, but I can recall they're both really, really good. I've actually got the Harley Benton HB 35 Plus here, and it's unreal. But I've played, I think, 2 different artist 58s, the cherry and the black one. It's weird because I played one in the early days and I said, man, this guitar needs some work. Like the posts weren't great and there were a few things. Sent it back about a year later, a couple of months, whatever, 6 months later. I get another one back. I'm like, this is awesome. So they nailed it. So I don't really have any hesitations recommending either. Just go for the one that's easiest to order because not everyone wants to pay the shipping costs for the Harley Bentons. Artist guitars, at least in Australia, I think they have free shipping. So that's a huge advantage. But if you're overseas or outside of Australia, they have a US site or they also have a UK one as well. So you just check to see what the easiest option is. But they're both great for their price, man. Every bit as good as the Epiphone Dot. And some might say they're even better because you get more tonal options. You might not use that all the time, but those split coil options, I actually think they sound pretty good. Ken, sorry. He's talking about the Pro Tools upgrade cost. Gotcha. Sorry, sometimes it's hard to keep track on the chat while I'm blabbering on over here. James says, professional studios are mostly all Pro Tools. If you want to be a pro engineer, you need to learn Pro Tools. Yeah, if you plan on working for someone else that has a studio, then that's definitely true. But the reason why those studios using Pro Tools is because it makes working with other places a lot easier because they're all using the same software. It doesn't mean that it's like picking a great analogy would be like you can only use Sony cameras for professional audio production. Video production, but I use Panasonic cameras on the most part. I got some Sonys as well, but I'm using Panasonic now. And it's like, it's the right tool for the job for what I do. So this is what I use. On my guitar channel, I use Panasonic cameras. On my other channel, I'll sometimes use my Sony, I'll sometimes use the Panasonics. It is what it is. There's no right or wrong tool unless you're at the mercy of someone else. If you're doing your own thing, you're free to pretty much use whatever you like. So yeah, I don't think there's one right hardware or software tool for anything, or guitar or amp for anything. It's like, well, what's the right thing to use here for yourself? And if your hardware is plugged into Pro Tools, like I know there's those certain, I can't remember the brands now, it's been so long, but there's certain, what's the name of the brand? There used to be some digital audio interfaces that only supported Pro Tools for a long time, or it came with Pro Tools or something like that, or it's locked to it, or whatever the case may be. It's probably not the case anymore, but you're right. The studios will mostly be on Pro Tools, but yeah, that doesn't mean that it's the best. It means that it's just like a standard that everybody uses to make working together easier. Hey, thanks, Fat. Cheers. He says the video image is nice and sharp. Cheers. I like these cameras. These are some of my favorite. Yeah, there's the right tool for the job. Like sometimes I have to use Sony cameras because I need certain like things to function better than they do on these cameras. But you know, I've got these dialed in pretty well on the most part. Like everyone's like, you can't buy Panasonic. The autofocus sucks. And then I go like, oh yeah, what about that? You know, sometimes it does struggle, but it is what it is. Tony G says, never had a problem on my i7 or i9 computers. You might have later generation ones as well. Again, I'm talking about going back quite a number of years now. Nothing wrong with PC for workflow these days. I was talking specifically about back when I made the change. It was like the other, anyway, it's a whole other conversation. I've gone on about this for ages. And I'll just mention this. The biggest difference is that software for Windows isn't optimized for certain hardware, which means the performance can be mixed. So unless you've got a list of approved hardware to match whatever, like Adobe Suite you're using or whatever, you can get drastically different results on that than changing the graphics card to something else or having the wrong graphics card. And that's where I was for so many years, trying to get video editing to run smoothly on my old Windows computer. I'm a nerd. I used to build all my own computers. I used to read the specs. I used to try to get everything to work as optimally as I could, and I couldn't. The functionality was like infinitely different for me back in the day. Do I have a favorite clone? I do. It's from Shelly, and I'll type that out. Let me, it's a kind of weird spelling. It's called the Pony Boy. Check it out. $100 or so, 110 US, made in the US. It's a monster. So, yeah, check it out. It's built like a tank, or better than a tank. And the tones of it are unreal. So that'd be the one I'd pick. I'd pick that any day over the Electro Harmonix one. Build quality wise, it's not even close. Oh, yeah, John. Thanks, man. John says, Shane, did you have a guitar that you said would give us a quick look at? Yes, let's do it. Absolutely. I totally forgot. Hey, Guitar Man 45, welcome, mate. Thanks for the support on the channel here. You're a member for a long time. Thank you. There are no left-handed basses in Australia at all, even Sky. Oh, they had two. I don't know. I think their website isn't always good. They had a P and a J bass in there. So that kind of surprises me. There's a few times where I like review something, link to Sky Music. I'm like, oh, it's not on the website. So it could just be that. Maybe give them a call. Tell them I referred you. June says, hey Shane, last 10 years, what has been the most innovative and game-changing guitar-related product for you? Ooh, that's a good question. All right. You know what? I would say this, the Two Notes Captor X or Torpedo Live or any other number of IR-based, or not just IR-based, but also load-bearing boxes, whatever they're called. What's the term I'm looking for? Load box. Load box with IR, because what this allowed me to do was to go from not only just blasting my amps loud to getting isolated recording cabinet. I owned one of those Randall cabs, and it's sort of like this big box with a speaker and microphone built into it. And that thing, while I kept the noise down, didn't sound great, and it was huge. It used to take up like a big corner of a room. And then once the Two Notes Torpedo Live came out, it completely changed the game for my recording workflow. It's just not even close. So 100% the Two Notes Captor X or Torpedo Live completely changed the workflow for the better, and it made things a lot easier for musicians. And since then, there's other options like the Aux and all that. They're all good. But the Two Notes Torpedo Live were the first guys doing it. I remember this engineer who's makes great pedals. He's like, oh, this is nothing special. It's just this mixed with this. I'm like, yeah, but before they released it, no one was smart enough to release it. And it solves a massive problem. It's convenient. It looks cool. I don't have to go deaf, recording electric guitar. This is the most useful tool I've seen in years. And he's like, oh, yeah, but it shouldn't be that expensive. I'm like, it's software mixed with good hardware. And it works. So I have no... let's get rid of this douchebag. There we go. Yeah, it was like the most innovative and functional tool I've ever used when it comes to recording guitar. And I've been using something similar, the Captor X now for quite some time. Before that, Two Notes Torpedo Live on the channel for a long time. because it was so easy. And yeah, that's all it comes down to. That easily is the one that I would pick. I've done reviews on it. I've also done written reviews and talked about how it compares up against the Aux and all the other ones that are out there on the market as well. But that's what I would say would be the best. All right, let's do this quick. Like look at this guitar, because I promised something earlier and I totally forgot about it. Ugh. This is a Harley Benton, so you'll either love this or you won't. But I haven't seen one of these before, or this type of guitar in person, which is why I wanted to maybe open it up on camera here. Any guesses as to what it is in terms of its styling or type? Yeah, anyone posting rubbish, man. I don't have time for it anymore. It's like, you know what? See ya. I'm more than happy to answer questions and all that kind of stuff, but yeah. Here we go. Here it is. Now this is kind of similar to one that I showcased a little while ago. I actually got this at exactly the same time. And it's been sitting here for a long time. So let's take a look at this. Yeah, I hope it's a lefty too, mate. You got me worried now. Wait, what did you see? All right. Thought this might be fun. All right, let's do this. So it's a MR style guitar, like most right kind of inspired one, but do you notice anything different about it other than the fact it's a lefty? It's pretty chunky. It's pretty chunky. It's a baritone guitar. I've never played a baritone guitar in my life, and I thought when I get back from my trip, and then obviously I had to get over being sick, I thought I'm going to spend some time learning how to actually play a baritone guitar, try and come up with something a little bit different and, you know, that might suit this style. So for those who don't know, the baritone guitars, there's one of two different types of tunings that typically get used, and it's all down much lower than standard E tuning, which gives you a completely different voicing. And I have a feeling this is going to be fun. This wouldn't be a guitar I would probably take to a jam night and play, because I'd have to transpose the chords, and you play the same stuff on it, but it's like, because the tuning's different, like where you'd play an A is not where an A chord is. You play an open E, it's kind of like an A sometimes. So there's a lot of different stuff going on with this that I'm yet to ever try, and I thought it might be fun to sort of showcase. Let me just fix this camera up and see it's doing funny things. There we go. So yeah, that's it. It's a baritone guitar. It's out of tune. Ooh, it is, but very cool. Let us know if you've ever played one of these and what you think about, obviously not just this this one right here, but just in general. Baritones are completely, it's called the MR Classic Vintage Series Baritone. And yeah, so that's it. It looks almost identical to the standard version. I don't know if you can really see a difference on camera here, but oh, here we go. Buzz says, you really need to listen to Mark Lettieri Deep for a great example of baritone. Oh, thank you. It's out of tune. Send it back. Yeah, they're very rarely in tune straight out of the box. I keep getting faulty guitars in the mail. No. Anyway, I think this looks pretty cool. It's heavy. I got to say, it feels like it's got a bit of chunk, but yeah, I'm looking forward to trying some different stuff. And this was something I wanted to put some time into before I reviewed it, because I could just smash through some chords and stuff, but I'm like, I want to know exactly what this can actually kind of, like, where this shines best. I think it's going to be more of like a melodic thing, So it'll get me out of my, you know, the standard sort of bluesy sort of stuff. I'm going to have to come up with something real nice for this. I've got a few ideas. Pick a couple of nice chords, play some nice through the chord kind of stuff. So, yeah. How bad is the string? The string action looks great. String action looks good. These are always set up pretty well. I've only had one that was really bad out of the box. Like it had cracks on the neck and the tuners were like really lopsided. And yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare. That video review's up too. A lot of people think that we always get like the better set up ones doing YouTube videos. It's not the case. Or they wouldn't have sent that other one out that was a mess. So, yeah. So I would say if, say 10 guitars have come in on to the channel, I would say 9 of them have been good. So yeah, there we go. Baritone. Baritone. And, I don't know why I said it like that. You know what? I don't know if this interests anybody or not, but does anyone want to have a look at this? This is, I actually bought this 2 days ago and my car broke down in the car park. I had to get that sorted out. That was awesome. All right. That might be about it. They're great for looping. Okay, very cool. Dave L says, baritone is cool to have. I have the PRS SE277 that's great, or at least more than good enough for when I have that need. Yeah, well, that's great. Omen says it looks heavy. Yeah, it's kind of heavy. It's a big chunk of wood on the body. The offset design obviously isn't for everybody, that kind of weird sort of lopsided look, but those pickups sound killer. The MR Classic that I reviewed a little while ago, those pickups are so usable. I think this Sunday I'm going to start playing live a bit more again. So you'll see, oh, maybe not that one, but you'll see other guitars getting used again outside of the house. Because I really miss doing that. It was something, it's a good point of difference from just putting a video out. Oh, how good's this guitar when you're at home? But how good is it actually when you get it out and you're playing with other people? Does it survive? And that's where I found flaws with stuff. I really think that that's like an important part of doing what we do, especially when it comes to like effects and guitars and amps and all that. Like, is it good enough to gig with? Because that's the ultimate test. It can be great at home or it can be good at home, but like if you buy an amp, you want to know, oh, possibly there's potential to go out and play it. How does it work? It's something that I kind of let go of, you know, doing all of that because we couldn't really go anywhere for a while. You played a Hallmark Custom 60. How does that compare to the Harley Benton Mosrite? You know, I played that like, I'm going to say like 6 years ago. I don't remember. It's probably, yeah, look, I'd have to go back and watch that video. It's been so long. They were pretty good guitars from what I remember. The only one of those I ever saw was at Jerry's Lefty Guitars. So you're probably referring to that video, right? I'm pretty sure. Baritones are great. I have the Squier Cabronita baritone, and it's tons of fun. Also surprisingly easy to make the transition. Well, that's cool. Yeah, very cool. I didn't know they had a Cabronita version. That'd be really nice. They're great guitars. Got 4 Harley Bentons. Theme from Twin Peaks. Man, I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to hear it again to get it back in the brain. Early Dwayne Eddy recordings used the baritone. Very cool. Charlie Chaplin was in the silent movies. He was. He played a lefty violin. Okay, I didn't know they made those. I thought all orchestra instruments were only right-handed, right? Because of when you're in a situation like in an orchestra, everyone has to be facing the same way. All right, we got Chris Rocco here from New York City. Welcome, welcome. Scale length is longer. Yeah, it would be. I know nothing about baritones. What's their purpose? That's pretty much what the video will be about, because I feel like it's something that's gone pretty much under the radar for me as a guitar player since I first started playing. It's not something that I ever looked up It's not something that I ever thought I ever needed. Do I need one now? I don't even know, because it's like, will it sound good? Will it be usable? Is it confusing? These are questions that I'm going to answer with that video, but I really like the look of it. If it sounds musical, and I don't have to, the thing is for me, right, I don't want to have to, like, I know I've only started dabbling with slide over the last 12 months or so, but a lot of people go, oh, you should try this tuning, you should try that tuning. I'm like, no, because then I have to learn a whole complete different series of note positions. I can't recall 2 sets of information when it comes to that. So what I'd rather do is just play in standard tuning. If I can play most of what I play on that guitar without having to adjust anything, even though in theory the chords will be different in the same position, then I'm good to go. That's where I think that will shine. Anyway, we'll see how we go. It should be good to use on backing track, Shane. It doesn't not necessarily have to be a lead instrument. That's kind of how I'm feeling about it. Like I said before, I think it'll be a good melodic kind of thing. You're right. Maybe just adding some niceness to some chord parts. Totally. I'm on board with that. And that's great. I'm really enjoying picking some chords and sort of noodling around. Would like a Tele. Squire Classic Vibe is looking good. Do it. Can't complain with those, mate. They've stood the test of time. I've owned one. The only 2 small negatives to a Classic Vibe, or at least they were when I bought mine, they're heavy and the neck's really thin. If you're right-handed, you have more of a choice, but as a lefty, I had one. That was it. The Dan Electro Barra. Okay, yeah, Dan Electro make a whole lot of different guitars. I've tried a lot of theirs over the years. Tonal Timber says, hey Shane, thank you for all the videos throughout the years. You're truly one of the goats on the guitar side of YouTube. Hey, thanks, man. What are your thoughts on the PCB versus Handwired? I'm curious on the good amps with PCB. PCB amps are fine. I really think it just comes down to the quality of the amp and their sort of like inherent reliability through over time, I guess is the way I'm trying to say that. So some amps are notoriously bad because they don't have the same sort of quality control as other amp manufacturers. What I've noticed over the years is this: some hand-wired amps sound far better than their hand-wired equivalents. Sorry, some hand-wired amps sound far better than their PCB equivalents, and some PCB amps sound far better than hand-wired clones of the original. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Some people will argue that hand-wired amps sound inherently louder than their PCB counterpart. And sometimes that's true and other times it isn't. I've played hand-built Fender clones that don't sound anywhere near as good as the PCB version. So it really comes down to who's making the amp. It really does. I wouldn't say one is completely better than the other. The benefit of a hand-wired amplifier is this: if something fails, it's easier to repair. And again, that's not always the case with everything that fails on an amp. I'm not a tech, but I watched a lot of videos on it and I've repaired little parts here and there on stuff. And it can be done on a PCB, but it's a lot harder than if it was a hand-wired amplifier. So that's kind of how I see it. One isn't vastly better than the other. And everyone's got an opinion on it. Like, oh, I bought this hand-wired amp and it sounds better than this or that. And that's probably true for that particular situation, but the reverse is also true. None of my amps that I've purchased, at least not recently, are hand-wired. I have owned a few over the years. They were okay, and they were loud, but I didn't keep them. Doesn't mean that it's instantly better. So I wouldn't get too caught up in the whole hand-wired thing unless you love the sound of it and it's proven to be good or it's unique or different. Then just pick the right amp for the job. But yeah, I bought a Two Rock a long time ago and it was $3,000, which is the most I ever spent on an amp. I was like, what have I done? I loved it for a while, and then I realized, oh, okay, so my Fender Supersonic 60, why do I prefer that over the Two Rock? And then I went, oh, so the hand-wired thing, it just comes down to the sound and the tone and that particular amp. But secondly, I would add, I think PCB amps are more consistent, especially when you're talking about like older hand-wired amps. I think the tolerances now probably aren't as wild as they were back in the day, so means there might have been a 20% variance in parts back on old school amps versus now, where everything's pretty consistent. So yeah, that'd be my opinion on it. I'm not an expert on electronics, so I don't claim to be at all, but that's my experience with it. Played a gig on the weekend, Fender Pro Junior into a 11,000 watt JBL system. That sounds fun, man. That's my kind of gig. Very cool. Fender makes substandard amps. Friedman and Freyet amps won't fail. Man, I tell you what, you're right. Like, I don't think all Fender amps are built well. I've had problems with my Supersonic 22 failing within a couple of weeks of owning it. And I've had Fender Blues Juniors that had faulty reverb tanks. And then you've got Fender amps that I've never had to touch, like the Fender Blues Deluxe. Same tubes. It's done 100, 200, 300 gigs. I don't know how many gigs it's done. It's played live a lot at loud volumes. I've used it for 10 years on my YouTube channel. It's never once failed me. So just because something is hand-wired doesn't mean it won't fail. It's not true. I know a good friend of mine had a boutique amp, and his what do you call it? The power transformer went on it, and they replaced it with the same power transformer. So it's gonna fail again, right? So you just don't know. I'm not saying Friedman amps are bad; they make great stuff, but yeah, you do get what you pay for to some extent. But because it's electronics and there's variables and there's lots of little parts, stuff can go wrong. Absolutely can. Great example of that. I bought a camera a while back, and it was an expensive camera for what it was. As soon as I got it back, the next day it started having problems, and I returned it. You just never know. And this is one camera that people recommend as being the best. So yeah, different tech, but yeah, you just can never tell. Had a Blues Deluxe since '94. Only one small problem a few years ago. Oh, cool. Well, let us know what it is, what you had a problem with. Mine's been going strong, man. I love that thing. It's such a great amp. Had a PV Musician, 220 watts. Cool. I don't know that one. Yeah, you're right about the Fender amps. I think their quality control has done this over the last 10 years. I'm just don't trust a lot of their amps anymore. They're not all bad, right? If your amp works fine, it's going to be fine. But the amount of times I've tested something at a shop, or it's had issues in the store, it rattled weird, or it made funny sounds, and I grabbed another one, it made exactly the same sound, grabbed another one, it made exactly the same sound. I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. Or Rick and I blew a couple of amps up, testing them out at louder volumes. It's like, yeah, I don't trust their build quality anymore, but there's still good amps in the range. It's just like, I always say, if you can find one that's already worked for a long time, then you're in business. So, or if you've already got one that you've had for a while that doesn't have any problems, it should be fine. The biggest problem, thank you, Tony. I'll get to this in a moment. The biggest issue I saw with the Fender amps was with their Blues Juniors. The whole range of their Blues Juniors 3 had faulty reverb tanks. You would turn it up to 12 o'clock and turn the amp up loud, and it would just be scratchy, and you'd hear these weird overtones on your note. Turn the reverb off, and it was fine. And none of their Fender reverb is like iconic, right? It's such a huge flaw. So, yeah. Hey, Tony, thank you so much, man. Thanks for the great live show tonight, he says. I appreciate that. Far out. Thank you. If you got any questions, man, let us know. Or any other questions, I'll get to you in the chat here. We might wrap this up pretty soon. I don't know how long we've been streaming for. 1 hour and 54 minutes. This is take 2, right? That can't be right. Is that right? And the time's flying tonight, man. I'm enjoying this. Or today. What time is it here? 2:25 p.m. I'm going to have some lunch pretty soon. Thank you again, Tony. I appreciate that, mate. Let's just clear out a couple of these spam bots. It's always good to... You know what? Let's... Hutch has been around forever. Let's give him the moderator power of the gods. You can now have the wrench. I mean, these chatbots, man, these spam bots, who's stupid enough to ever click on any of this stuff? Like, you'd have to just be like ridiculous, right? To click on any of this crap. All right, there we go. We're getting there. It's been pretty good though the last couple of months on YouTube for me. I haven't had too much of this sort of spam stuff. All right, done. There we go. All right, the blues tuner can sound great, but the plastic pots held in place with solder is disappointing. Oh, there you go. Yep. Sorry, I'm looking over this way all the time. Scott says, Greg says, had my Roland Cube for 15 years. Man, those things are bulletproof. They're like the PV Bandits. Well done. Simon says, came across the 2010, what is it? A Quiet CV, Squire CV, Squire Classic Vibe Thin Line Telecaster. I think that's what that's supposed to say. Sorry. With a walnut body. Is that common? The walnut? I don't think so, especially back then. It's not one that I've seen before. I would look into that and see whether or not it's actually a Squire. Just double check, make sure that they did make that, because you'll find some weird guitars where someone might take the body and put on a Squire neck and sell it in a shop. I've seen that a lot of times with fake kind of like, or real or fake necks on other bodies. And it's like, well, what do you do with that? If it's, yeah, I'm not too sure. And Tony G, thank you again, mate. I appreciate it. And everyone else who's been in the chat here tonight. All right, let's scroll down. Hey, thank you, Buzz. He says, great to see you live again. It's been ages. It has been so long. And I thought I'd mix it up by sitting in this room for a change. I got to tidy up my In the Blues room. It's not in good shape at the moment. I got to get in there, set up my new sound card, run some cables, get it all working, and just clear the floor. So yeah, I thought we'd do it in here today. But thank you. Thanks for joining back in. Appreciate it. You've been a huge supporter of the channel. The wrench. Yeah, we might have to mod a few more folks here. We'll see how we go. Buzz is a good dude. I trust Buzz. Let's add moderator. All right, Buzz has the power now as well. So all this means is that Buzz will be able to help clear out any spam stuff if he sees it. Otherwise, everything else is allowed as long as it's not offensive to someone else. Thoughts on the Pro Reverb? Sounded great in the shop yesterday. Great amp. You know, one of my good friends, Brian, just bought one. So he loves it. He used it, I think, 2 or 3 times gigging already. And he's like, this is the real deal. I said, it's exactly like a deluxe reverb, but better, right? Oh, better. It's in like louder and fuller sounding, more clean headroom, all that kind of stuff. Maybe better is not the right term, but just bigger is a better term to use. And they're fantastic. So Tony G says, what's the name of that clone you like again? I'll type it in. It's called the Shelly Pony Boy. So there we go. I have a 40-year-old Fender Sidekick 15R and it's still going strong. Wow. That's pretty cool. I didn't know they were that old, those amps. That's amazing. Thoughts on Quilter amps? Eyeing the Aviator Mark III head. Would be selling an AC10 to fund the purchase. Yeah, I mean, solid state amp, light, pretty loud, good in the mix. I gotta say, I don't really love those like tiny heads that they've got, just from a usability standpoint. But I played one of their combos once and it was pretty solid. I don't know if I liked it more than a PV Bandit. I probably didn't like it more than a PV Bandit, but I've only played one at a jam night once. So it's really hard for me to sort of comment on it. I like the look and idea of those amps. I just don't know if they're a better deal than buying like a used Bandit, like a Red Stripe, or even a more modern one. I don't know. Yeah, some people swear by those amps though. So just listen to as much as you can and see if it's the right sound that you like. Buzz, he loves the spam. Oh, that's all right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the help. Yeah, you're doing me a favor by helping out with the wrench. So don't think don't think it's, yeah, you're helping me. So it's my pleasure. Thank you. I appreciate it. Ronnie says, do you still play the Marshall DSL 40? If so, which speaker did you keep in it? So I had the stock speaker in there for probably, I'm going to say 6 months maybe. I then went over to a Tonka, an Eminence Tonka, which I love the sound of in a room. But when I got it out live, I was like, it's not quite the right sound. There was a couple of things about the Tonka I didn't love. It had a great upper mid-range thing, which really made it cut the mix, but it didn't have the chunky low end. And it was still a bit too bright. The DSL 40 is quite a bright amplifier, so you've got to really wind down the presence and the treble control. So much so that the treble can almost be off. And with the stock speaker, unless you're really, really loud, it can be too bright. I put a Texas Heat in there, never looked back. It's been in there 100% of the time. It takes out the high end so I can EQ it like a normal amp, put the treble somewhere around 1 o'clock without it ever still sounding like ice pick bright. And then I can run the bass down further instead of up further. And it sounds unreal. It's loud. It does make the amp a little bit heavier than the stock speaker, but the Texas Heat would be, without question, the best match for that amp for my kind of sound. I love that more rolled out high end sound, or not ice pick bright kind of Marshall tone. Some people love that. If you like the really bright Marshall tone, then you probably won't love the Texas Heat. I've also tried it just by daisy chaining it across to the Swamp Thing speaker, which is also a really good choice. That gives you a thick bottom end, but not as big as the Texas Heat, and a little bit more top end, but nowhere near as bright as that stock Celestion speaker, which are very solid speakers. But yeah, Texas Heat has been in there all the time. You know what? I get a lot of questions about these amps. About, what have I got in what amp? These are ideas. I'm going to reapproach a lot of the stuff I've kept long term and how I feel about it today, and give you a rundown of what it is that's going on with it. Because although I just answered it, I see that similar questions come up, and I'm like, I really need to start doing these like long-term review videos. The Wrench should be a good name for a blues rock instrument track. Yeah. I missed my Eric Clapton Twinilux, sold it for a lightweight custom shop Gibson Les Paul. Worth it, but now I'm ampless. Oh, man. All right, so the 57 Twin. I hope you've got a little trolley for it, man, because those things I think they're backbreakers. That doesn't always matter. Not everybody cares about amp weight, but 57 Twins are pretty much the same amp, right? Then the Twinilux has the ability to, it had a power attenuation thing, and you can also defeat one of the speakers, right? Like you get the Twinilux had 2 speakers. You could drop the volume and then drop it again, and you only use 1 speaker. I'm pretty sure that's how that worked. They were really cool amps. You may have dodged a bullet with that, man, because part of me's thinking that I read posts about people having problems with the transformers on those. I could be wrong, but just double. Not on the 57 Twins, but on the Twinilux amps. Sorry if I wasn't clear. Best modeling amp to play live. Man, it's a hard question to answer, because there's my favorite one that I gigged with was the Mustang version 3. It was loud, it had all the sounds in there, and it was easy enough to tweak if I needed to change something on the fly, and the foot switch made it easy. If I'm using something like the Boss Katana, which I don't own anymore, but like, for example, I have used that live, I found it was more usable just using it as a clean channel amp with some delay and then using an overdrive pedal into it. Yeah, I feel like digital modeling amps aren't necessarily the best for live players. You want something simple that's easy enough to tweak, and I'd prefer to play these days a solid state amp any day of the week over a digital modeling amp live. I don't care what model or make it is. They're just easier to get the sound. I put my pedal board down, I'm done. But if you don't have a pedal board, the old school Fender Mustang 3 version 2s are pretty hard to beat in the mix. They've got a really great sound. But yeah, it would be somewhere between that and the Katana, which is more like a solid state amplifier on that clean channel. So that's kind of how I look at it. But I'd rather play PV Bandit than both these days. So that's how I look at it. As great as they are, the other amps, from what I like, it's a no-brainer. Tonal Timber says, correct Shane, wow, I had no idea. Yeah, thankfully I'm 20, so they aren't as heavy or back-breaking for my back just yet. Well, that's good. You're lucky, man, because it only takes one bad lift out of a car with a heavy amp for a disc to go bad, and then it can cause you problems for years. That's kind of like why I started working out years ago, because I was like, I have to do everything to protect my spine and make sure that I can move this heavy crap around without suffering. So you're in a good place. That's good. Just make sure you lift properly, man, because it'll get you when you least expect it. I remember the first time I was going to a gig. I was going to a jam night actually with some friends. I had my Fender DeVille. I picked it up without really lifting it properly, and my old place had like a lot of steps and stuff. I picked it up and I felt like there's this muscle that runs down your spine, and it hurts. If you tear it, it's one of the worst pains you can have in your back, right? It's like brutal. It hurts when you breathe because it moves all the time. I picked this amp up and I could feel something like getting hot in my back. I tore that muscle. It wasn't off or anything, but it was bad. I was laying on the ground. I couldn't move. It was brutal. And that was trying to carry the Fender DeVille downstairs. And because I picked it up wrong, something else went wrong, and it sucked. So yeah, if you can, I don't care what age people are, grab one of those two-wheeled trolley things and wheel it into gigs if you have that luxury, because it's a lot easier on the back. If you're like me, where you don't want to carry or do two runs up and down, you just like to carry everything at once, that's where you get in trouble. Good enough for me between Shane and Brian Sanders. I'm definitely going to try the Texas Heat. Amp is way too bright. Thanks, guys. Hey, no worries, man. All good. Yeah, that was my problem with it as well. The brightness works to its favor when you're really loud. Like if you get the gain on the classic channel up to about 1 o'clock and the master on the drive channel, the volume and the gain both at 1 o'clock and the master's at 10, it can work great in terms of that stock speaker. But yeah, I was the same. I was like, it's a bit too bright. And then once I swapped the speaker off, I was like, that's the sound I wanted. It's kind of like almost like my Fender rig, but without any pedals. It's pretty cool. Check out guitarspeakerguide.com as well. There's lots of great articles about which speaker works best with what amp and all that kind of stuff. I've tested so many speakers using different cabinets. At my friend Brian's place, he had probably 20 different speakers. I had a lot of different speaker experience over the years. So yeah, I've learned what kind of voicing with speakers works great with different amps, just through trial and error a lot of the time. And also from testing amps as well that have like custom, FSR runs and all that kind of thing. Those Jazz Chorus amps were the worst. They're so heavy. They're still bad. They still make those, and the JC 120 is like one of the worst amps to move. It's worse than a Fender Twin. Solid state amplifier that weighs like 50 kilograms. I don't know how heavy that is exactly. Someone can Google it, but it's brutal. It's so bad. Yeah, I don't ever really want a 2x12 anymore. It's fun, and you can get a lot of great sound out of it. I'd rather a 4x12. It's not as heavy, and it's generally speaking 4x12s are more vertical than sideways. I think there's something to that as well when it comes to its sort of like balance or something, or it's just its overall feel when you're lifting it. I know it sounds weird, but I found like my Super Reverb was far easier to move than a Fender Twin. I don't know how much different they are in terms of size, or even a Vox AC30, which are more long than high. The taller cabs seem to be a lot easier to sort of get around. Man, this live stream's been fun. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. It's been so long since I jumped on and did one of these things, and it's not through not wanting to do them either. I just needed to get my voice back. I needed to get all the stuff ahead of my trip done, and then now I'm still getting through all of that editing process, and then you'll start to see some cool stuff come up. I'm going to just sort of get rid of the rest of my editing work with the... Yeah, actually, there's a couple of like little videos I'm going to throw in from the studio here that are recent, but most of the stuff I want to finish is everything I did overseas, which I know not everybody's interested in when it comes to the Jerry's Lefty guitar thing and all that kind of stuff. It's just something I really wanted to do, which is why those videos are sort of existing. It's just a great, fun thing for me to be, to try different guitars and all that kind of stuff. But I'll go back to more of the regular stuff once I get through that, rather than sort of intermix it. I've got a good plan moving forward. I've been... I almost felt a little weird about YouTube for a while. Like, oh man, I'm getting bored. I'm like, well, this is my channel, right? Like, if I'm getting bored, and clearly people watching the channel might be getting bored, maybe it's time to go back to doing some different stuff or try some different things. It's like a really easy fix. I'm like, I'm in a position, thankfully, where I can pick and choose what I choose to review. I don't chase companies. It's just not something that I don't need to be doing that. I don't do sponsored videos in terms of plugging companies in the middle of my video or anything. I want to try and stay right away from that. And I was like, what else can I do to keep this moving forward? And I was like, I got some good ideas. So try it. What's the worst thing that can happen? It's funny. I was almost going to post this the other day too, speaking about YouTube. It's so bizarre. So every video I release, or any video a larger channel releases, right, won't appeal to more people. No, it appeals to more people than it doesn't appeal to generally on people who watch it. But when I release any video, I lose 3 subscribers within the first minute. Every time. And you can watch the graph. It's like, no matter what it is, it could be a video that ends up getting 100,000 views and it will bring in 300 subscribers, or it could be, or 1,000, or it could be a video that gets -3 instantly and then it goes up and I might earn 30 subscribers out of the video. It's so funny to see how this YouTube thing works. I'm like, and lately I've been like looking at the videos the last couple of months just to see like what happens as soon as the video goes live. And I haven't had a lot of viral videos. I don't even care about that, but not many of them have taken off. I don't really care because like the long-term approach of what I do is like, I want to make a quality video, and anytime someone will search for, even if it's something obscure, these videos will show up. It's not like, I can't believe this company did this, or, I don't do those sort of videos. So it's not like a short-term look at it, but it's funny watching the stats. I don't know if this interests anybody or not, but I almost thought about putting a video together about this just to show you how hilarious a video is on launch, because some of them it doesn't matter. Like I might have 12 minutes watch time on a Guitar Search Saturday video that might go for 15 minutes, which is amazing. Like that's how those videos get pushed. But instantly, no matter what the video is, you see your subs drop, and then you see this like stat thing go back up. It's crazy, man. It really is crazy. Anyway, that is probably just boring the shit out of everybody. Tony G says you should review used gear, good solid gear for classic sleeper and used gear. Yeah, well, you know what? I have done that a lot, man. I've actually reviewed a lot of used gear on the channel. Not so much the stuff that stuff I've bought. I shouldn't say that because I've bought lots of amps and pedals that were used on the channel, and I end up doing reviews on them. But some of the guitars from Jerry's are also used. I don't know if that was clear in the videos or not. I don't even know if I mentioned it on some of them. But yeah, it's like, that's a great idea. There's so much great used gear on the market that you don't even necessarily need to, well, not all the time, but most of the time you can find something great without having to go to the shops. And that's why I really want to showcase that Music Go Round store, because some of those guitars didn't even look like they were played, which was insane. It's like, it's got the plastic on the pickups, and it's like half, or cheaper than half the price of a new one. It's so crazy. Lost Rope says, seriously, listening to 3 subscribers when you release a video? I have a lot to say about it, but it's too profanity laced. That's all right, man. Look, I understand. Like, not every. I think what it is too. I got to keep in perspective. The channel potentially can reach, say, 100,000 people easily if a video is on topic or more. And there's been videos I did in the last 12 months that got to 150,000 views, I should say, not subscribers, or 100,000, whatever. And those videos, those sort of ones that always do well, bring in more subs than they lose, without question. It's like 99% favorable. And most videos are. Over time, you'll see that, like, even if I lost 10 subscribers on a video, 2 weeks later, that video has brought back those 10 subs, or different people, or it goes up into the positives. So it's really weird. But I think, I know I watch a lot of YouTube, and there's some channels I really enjoy, and there's some channels I can't watch. And I'm like, it only just takes one more of those type of videos that I don't like watching for me to go click and unsub. So yeah, I get it. Not all the videos I make are on into people's interests. Some people subscribe for the less expensive stuff. Some people subscribe to the pedal demos. If you don't get enough pedal demos, or you don't get enough cheap stuff, or you don't see enough lefties, or whatever the case is, right? People are like, all right, I'm out of here. So it just happens. It's no big deal. It's just part of it. But it's funny to see just how this happens every video. And it started happening as the channel got to a certain size. You can always traction. If you look at the global statistics, right, of the channel, it never drops in the negatives. I never have videos where the channel is behind the week or day before. So that's always good. It never tracks negatively. So that's just one of those things. I'm sure if you talk to like Henning Pauly, or I don't know, anybody, Robert Baker or anybody, as big as their channels are, every time they release a video, people unsubscribe. I haven't spoken to them about it, but I'd almost say like those channels being similar size to mine or much larger would have the same thing where people subscribe to a certain thing, and if you broaden it too much, people leave. Same with Guitar Search Saturday. As soon as I released the last one, I put like 20 hours into that video. It cost me, like that whole trip cost me a fortune. I wasn't sponsored. I just wanted to do it. People unsubscribe instantly for Guitar Search Saturday. But the great news is I might lose 5 subscribers on one of those videos, but over the course of the next 2 weeks, you get 25, 30. So it's like, oh, okay, this is cool, but it's so bizarre. It's a real, you know what I'm saying. It's just, yeah, you can't please everybody all of the time, unless you just do one thing all the time, and that's not what I want to do. Hutch says, sometimes you temporarily lose a subscriber because he or she has hit the wrong button. I've done that. Yeah, you know what? I never really thought about that before, and I'm sure that's a thing, because you always, I used to ask people a lot to subscribe, and if they already were, they may have been unsubscribing. You're right. I have no idea. Yeah, that's a good point. I've stopped sort of asking for that as well. I think that's kind of annoying. I'm just making videos again without doing any of that stuff. Buzz says, I bought a Larrivee Dreadnought. They're great guitars, by the way. For $200, the music go around. Oh, wow. Plays and sounds better than my Martin or Taylor. I tell you what, mate, they are one of the most underrated acoustic guitars. They are so good. They're like Seagull I think they're out of Canada. Amazing guitars for their price. Larrivee stuff is like, I'm never going to tell you I'm an aficionado when it comes to acoustics, but the ones that I've seen of those Larrivee guitars are like really nice. So good stuff. How many active subs are still actively watching? It really depends on the content and sort of what gets traction. If a video gets a lot of watch time, that's when more subs will see it. It's really weird, man. It depends. Like, this is why you see channels posting just stupid titles about like, oh my God, not again. Those kind of things, because people are like, what? And they click on it and you're left like, So those are the videos, if they get a lot of click-throughs right away, those are the videos that get pushed. But long term, they only get pushed if the video is good and if people watch the majority of them. So that kind of clickbait sort of stuff doesn't work to your favor long term, even though they might get a lot of views instantly. Doesn't mean in 2 years that video is ever going to be found, right? So I spoke to, I think it was, actually I spoke to Henning about this. I said, like, you know, he's under the same impression that I am. Like, if you're just doing straight up gear reviews, those videos, they track good long term, but they don't necessarily, you don't go out for the viral hit unless something's new or it's from a company like Fender. I know when I've been on, lucky enough to get something release day, those videos do really well. And sometimes you fluke it as well, but I never try to like, I don't want to buy into the BS of that ridiculous themed title. And not all of the time either. I see it get overused too often, and it's actually put me off like watching content with it, because I'm like, what am I going to get out of this? I'm going to watch a minute of it and go, next, and down it goes into oblivion. Just throw an overlay on screen asking viewers to subscribe. Yeah, that's pretty much where it's at now, James. Even on the Guitar Search Saturdays, I don't think I even mentioned subscribing or anything. I'm just like, I'm just looking to do some fun stuff. I want to mix up the channel and just keep it interesting, because, you know, after this long, you know, I'm thankful that I've been able to kind of keep this channel moving for so long. It's really surprised me, like, that it's still going. And it's in a lull, there's no question about it, but the lull is because of what I've been releasing, and I'm well aware of that. But I also needed a break from certain things that I didn't want to do for a while. Otherwise, you just, like, I've spoken to lots of people who, they make content based on what they know works well, and it's the least fun thing to do. And just clickbait and titles isn't good for you know, people who have been watching your videos for 10 years or more. So, yeah. Anyway, it's a whole discussion. The Pony Boy is 150 US, must be good because there's none available on Reverb. Go to his website and grab one from there. Unless he's only selling on Reverb now, which I'd be surprised. I've actually met the guy behind those pedals. He's a lovely guy. It's gone up a bit. It was 120 last time I looked. But he has sales on too. So yeah, just check out, is it ShellyCustomGuitars.com? That's just from memory. He also is a luthier, but he's like a guru when it comes to tube screamer style pedals and clones. Are there any other channels that can validate what I asked about my understanding of the algorithm? Oh, sorry, man. Is it comments as much as thumbs up? Please correct me. So you're right. I missed your comment before, Rob. I think here we go. Shane, I think you've watched me making comments, no matter short or relevant they are, because my understanding of the algorithm is comments counts. So yeah, it's kind of like any interaction. So if you like the video, leave a comment, thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. It actually does help. But what also helps is watch time. If the videos aren't good or they don't appeal to people, they don't get pushed. But it also can positively impact. This is why people do giveaway videos. Comment in the comment section, and if you get 1,000 comments, the video will still get pushed. So it does positively impact, and that's why a lot of channels do giveaways, because they get 1,000 people commenting instead of 5. Those videos will get pushed more. So it does help, but you know, it's the same old thing. Do you want to beg for people's interaction all the time either? And I don't know, man. It's one of those things, but it does help. So while the long-term aspect of it, in my opinion, is watch time and quality, because if the watch time's up, you'll be closer to the top of the search tool anytime someone looks for it on Google or on YouTube or any other search engine, and that's always good. But yes, the comments do help. There's no questions about it. Like, I started a bit of a joke channel with Rhiannon, just to see if we just stuck to one niche and did videos for a month, how big could we get the channel? And it grew to 20,000 subscribers. And like, it took about 2 or 3 months with very little work. So yeah, I think all of that kind of stuff helps. I think I think the longer someone's been around, the less like people are interacting with it as well. I think there's that part of it as well. I know when I look at older camera channels when I'm looking for something, even though their content's sometimes far better, they don't have the same level of interaction that some of the newer channels have, and not necessarily just new channels, but some of the larger, bigger names. And I think that's also part of it as well. Hey, Beclouder, welcome. The classic tuning video still comes up for me on this channel. Hey, thanks, man. I think that it's up to like 3 million views. It's or whatever it's up to. You know what? That was just something I thought I'm going to put one of these up years ago, and it worked. This just goes to show you can never tell. Classic tuning, yeah, man. I always, I did too. I did that one. I also did a flat tuning one, and the flat tuning one has never popped up as often. So if you ever need to look for a flat tuning, check out the In the Blues one. Yeah, definitely. Fat, when the comments section definitely helps. Like I said before, when people do giveaways and everybody's commenting, that definitely pushes the video more to people. And then it's at the mercy of the thumbnail, the titles, all that kind of stuff. And lastly, the content itself, right? So yeah, it's sort of there's all these like factors that go into it. Would you encourage a new beginner left-handed guitar player to play left-handed or right-handed? There's so many more righty guitars out there. Did you ever try to play right-handed? I couldn't at all play right-handed. It was by far the worst. Like, I air guitared this way. If you air guitar this way, play left-handed. There's so many lefties. Sure, you might not have the 9 out of 10 range, but in a way, that can also be less distracting. So you can find a great selection of lefties in almost any brand now, on the most part. And the ones that you can find will be enough. I really don't encourage people to play right-handed if you're a natural lefty. Maybe 25 years ago, that might have been true. Even before I started playing, I could find a Strat at most shops, or a Telecaster, or a 335 or whatever. So while there weren't all the options that I could get in lefty, I still had enough to get me going. And no is the quick answer. I know Mark Knopfler's left-handed who plays right-handed, but he's a freak. And back when he was playing, there might not have been the range of lefties, right? So I would say if you naturally air guitar this way, work with it, because your dexterity between the hands are vastly different. I know my precise motor skills, it's just a different thing. Like if I try playing a chord with this hand, and I've tried a lot, I could probably work it out after a while, but it would be a lot of work. And then I can't, like, yeah, my motor skills in my hands are different too. So I feel like I couldn't play opposite-handed. Not a chance. Dalton says, we always talk guitars and gear, but you're always wearing sweat hoodies. Where do you get your hoodies? I'll tell you why I started wearing these. It's where I live now. It's cold. And they're a good sort of like training top as well. Like maybe not this one, but I've got a few others that I wear to the gym. So for me, it's sort of like it's comfortable. But I'll tell you where I get them. I go to Target. In Australia, I go to Connor, and I'll also buy them occasionally from surf shops when they got like huge sales on. I don't ever buy clothes retail price. It's crazy. And sometimes even Cotton On. And that's about it. I don't spend a fortune on clothes, as you can tell. I think this one was probably from somewhere less expensive. It's probably like $10. You ever tried a righty that you could get... You ever try a righty that you can't get in a lefty and play it upside down? Yeah, look, we were talking about that earlier. I have thought about it, but I've never actually gone out and done it. Mostly, like I mentioned, my arm tends to bump into the tone and volume controls. Lost Rep says, Shane, you don't need to do giveaways. We watch for you. Thanks, man. I used to do them every 10,000 subscribers for a while. And then, again, you're getting people that only want to... If you're doing them all the time, like some channels were doing, I warned them. I said, man, people are coming to your channel for giveaways. They don't care about your other stuff. So just don't. It's probably not a good idea to do it all the time. But yeah, I don't know, man. It is what it is. You try and give back in other ways. I'm more active in the comments and all that kind of stuff. Live streams. If I can make a time and a day to do this more often, I'm definitely going to be doing that. Omen says, I was a righty after injury. I'm now a lefty. That is also very true. That's exactly Jerry's lefty guitar story. He was a right-handed guitar player and he lost his index finger. And so he's like, I can't play guitar, or not as easily. So I'll play lefty. What's available, you know? And you can definitely, like, if I spent a full year playing if I played a full year playing right-handed, I would be probably 10% of where I'm at now if I worked really hard at it, I reckon. But there's certain... Yeah, I reckon if you're forced into a situation where you can only play one way through injury, you've got all the knowledge in your mind about how the chord shapes are, and then it all comes down to the feel. And I think if I was even forced to play, all right, I can't play left-handed anymore, let's play right-handed, I reckon eventually I'd be okay at it. I probably wouldn't get back to where I am now, which is wherever that is. But I reckon you could get it done. There's people that have done that as well. So, yeah, it's interesting to see. You know, there's people that lose fingers that still play the same way too. So, yeah, there's a lot of very adaptable people out there. Are there any businesses in Australia that are like Warmouth? Have you ever considered or getting a custom lefty parts a caster made? Yeah, again, I've thought of that quite a bit over the years. In Australia, there's places that sell kits, but not necessarily like, you know, like you choose the cut of wood, choose the finish, choose this, choose that. I don't know of anything like that in Australia. So I don't think that's an option. What was the other part of the question? Have I considered getting a lefty one? I've thought about it. Yeah, I'd like to do a project guitar at some point. The problem I always have with this sort of stuff, I almost want to get a guitar body that's finished rather than like an unfinished one that I have to spray and do all that kind of stuff. Because the main reason is no matter how good I am with spray paint, when it comes to, I've finished stuff before with it, won't ever be as good as getting it done properly. So I feel like I could just buy a guitar, like all the different parts that I want and put it into something. That would be a cool experiment. Pitbull guitars, there we go. That's the kit I was thinking about. I couldn't think of the name of it. I've seen them everywhere. They're on eBay. They've also got parts in shops that I've showcased on the channel. But yeah, I don't necessarily want to go through the hassle of like spraying and finishing a guitar and all that kind of stuff. I don't really have a work shed here either. So, you know, I'd be doing it outside where there's bugs, and it's just like, man, I don't want something getting stuck onto it. It's just a nightmare. So I may buy like, I've actually got some really great pickups sitting in the cupboard I could definitely use in a project guitar, but it would need to be something that I could just like use the parts I already have mixed with parts that are already finished nicely and then just put it all together. So I don't know if that's kind of like necessarily the same exact thing of like building a guitar. It's like assembling it more so. I haven't done much of that sort of stuff on the channel. I'd like to do something like that at some point. Hey, we've got Music Therapy Laz. Welcome, mate. I think I saw your subscription thing pop up before you got did you already do your live stream or is it coming up? Oh, maybe I did miss it. Anyway, I thought I saw something pop up earlier. Drum rudiments. Is that it? This is 1 2 1 1. Is that what the rudiments are? All right, guys. I'm gonna get some lunch before I fade too much. This has been an absolute fun and absolute marathon of a live stream here. What are we up to? We're up to. Does it say the time anywhere? What's the time? It says 2 hours and 34 minutes. That can't be right. I don't know. anyway, we might wrap this up. If anyone, has any last questions, let us know. Hang in there. If you're bored by the recent content, the Jerry stuff or whatever, I'm going to put together some different videos. I know a lot of people like my opinion on gear due to all the hands-on experience, so there's going to be a few more of those videos talking about different products, what I recommend for different types of players, with actual sound samples and live clips and whatever else put into it as well, because I stopped doing it for a while, but I really feel like that's the kind of thing that I'm going to start doing more of coming up, mixed with other stuff as well. But anyway, all right, guys, thank you so much. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for the super chats, all that kind of stuff, and for being a part of what I do here. I appreciate it. And yeah, hang in there with the next couple of Guitar Search Saturday videos. There's one coming up. Not the next one, which is still going to be good, but the one after that will be the finale, I think, and it's hilarious. But I'll probably do a live stream before then anyway. All right, guys, take care. Thank you so much for everything, and I'll catch you on the next one. I can't turn this off in the same way that I used to, so what I'm going to have to do now is just hit stop streaming over here, and we'll see if it works. All right, guys, take care.